All right, we're live.
Ready to go?
Yes, we are.
There we are. Great. Thanks, Dan. So good evening, everybody. It's October 16th, 2023. This is a regular meeting of the Weston Board of Education. We have a full agenda tonight. The first item on the agenda is a call to order and a verification of a quorum. And I believe we have a quorum as of October 16th, 2023. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would anyone like to lead that? Hearing none. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we begin tonight's meeting, I believe it's necessary to address the terrorism in Israel and the events which have transpired since. I can assure you the Weston Board of Education condemns all forms of hate and all forms of violence. Unfortunately, we're living in a world where hate and violence pervades. The overarching goal and responsibility of the Weston Board of Education is to create an educational experience which fosters the growth and development of our students in a safe and nurturing environment. Later this evening, our superintendent will present the district goals. You'll hear from our administrators and our school principals. Importantly, you'll meet Joe Rios, our director of school safety. Joe joined the Weston Schools after a 26-year career as a captain in the Newtown Police Department, which he followed by joining the Norwalk school system, where he oversaw safety and the implementation for 19 schools. Joe and the leaders of Weston's Police Department, Ed Henyon and Matt Burdacki, are well acquainted and work collaboratively on the measures for the safety of our students and our schools. Nothing will offset the devastating attacks and the tragic loss of life that's ensued. One of the most important things we can do is to support each other as community members as we work through these very difficult times. With that, I'd like to move to item number 3, which is an approval of the minutes. We have 3 to approve. The meeting minutes from the September 20th, 2023 Weston Board of Education executive session. If there aren't any changes, can I have a motion to approve?
Yes, I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the September 20th, 2023 Weston Board of Education executive session meeting minutes.
Why don't we approve those individually? Melissa?
Aye.
Bernadette?
Aye.
David?
I was not present, so I will abstain.
Okay. Chad?
Aye.
Is Peter joined? Not yet. And I approve as well. And Sharon is not here this evening. The second item on the agenda, 3B, is the meeting minutes for the September 27th, 2023 Weston Board of Education executive session. Are there any changes to those minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the September 27th, 2023 Weston Board of Education executive session meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Chad. All those in favor, we'll start again. Melissa?
Aye.
Chad?
Aye.
Bernadette?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
And I approve as well. Item 3C is meeting minutes from the October 5th, 2023 Weston Board of Education executive session. Are there any changes to these minutes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the October 5th, 2023 Weston Board of Education executive session meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thanks, Bernie. Melissa,
In favor, aye.
Chad,
I wasn't at that session. I couldn't attend, so I'll abstain.
okay, Bernie,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
and I'll approve as well. Thank you. Item number 4 is Student Board of Education representatives' comments. Are we joined by students this evening?
Yeah. Hi,
Okay.
hi everyone. Hi. Nivi and Gianna. Yeah, I think you guys met Nivi at the last meeting. I couldn't attend, so I'm here now. I'm really happy to be here. We just have a few updates about Weston High School, some things that have been going on recently. So our first update is about our recent homecoming week, which just basically a week full of activities. We had school dress ups every single day, which we saw a lot of school spirit this year, which as student government members are really happy about. We had our annual Deck the Doors competition where during advisory, we decorate our doors. We get like supplies and it got super interesting this year. You can look at the Weston High School Instagram to see some photos, but I think this year was our best show out and people got really into it, which was great. We had homecoming, the homecoming dance, which also was a huge success. We had over 400 kids come in attendance and we had help from the PTO, the custodians, the staff. So we thank all of you guys for helping us out. It was a huge help. We also had our annual Powerpuff football game and our floats where we decorate cars and they usually drive around the field during the homecoming game, but because it was raining, we kind of did like a last minute change and decorated golf carts and drove them around the field right after our Powerpuff game, which was kind of hectic, but it ended up working out really well. And we had a lot of fun doing that. So next, currently we just finished collecting Google Forms to order pink t-shirts. We're trying to raise money for the Sloan Kettering Memorial, which is an organization that researches cancer. So $3 from every shirt sold is going to that organization. And we got 200 shirts between Weston High School, Weston Middle School, and the central office. So I think it was pretty successful. And we're hosting a pink out just as another dress up on the 27th of October. Next, we're planning another fundraiser for the Person to Person organization, which is an organization we've worked with for a while. We do something called Penny Wars, which is normally the grades compete. They try and fill these empty water jugs with as many pennies as they can, and it's a competition of which grade can earn the most. But this year we're doing it with advisory, so we're trying to see which advisory class can earn the most coins, and all of the funds are going to the Person to Person organization, and this is being run from November 1st to the 15th. So we could provide an update about how that went in the next November meeting.
Other things we have coming up is our Halloween haunt, which is basically a concert between like the band and the choir kids. And it's really fun and engaging for a lot of like Hurlbut kids who come. They get candy, they listen to us perform and sing, and it's a really fun event. Also, just in general, we have building updates for physical spaces. We wanted to thank PTO for the new lounge things we got. We saw them today. We haven't put them out yet, but it's basically like these like little cushion seats. We have chairs and little tables that we're going to be putting out in the lobby, which is really exciting. And it's going to provide a really nice environment for a lot of students who might want to find somewhere else to sit and do their work. So we're really excited about that. Also, the new composting initiative that we have in our school has finally been implemented. And we sent out videos during our packed advisory times for the whole school. Everyone's been really invested in committing to doing composting during lunch. And so far it's been working really well, which is really exciting. Hopefully we can keep that going. And we've also been recycling paper, the sustainable living class, which Gianna and I are both a part of. We basically go from each class to class once a week, and we take the paper out of like the compost bin that they, not the compost bin, the paper bin that they have, and we put it in like this like trash area that then gets collected. And it's really nice to see that everyone's really trying their best to recycle and put paper where it's supposed to be. And yeah, that's all. So yeah. But we want,
You've been busy, plus you have to go to school during the day.
Yeah,
yes,
very busy, but it's good. It's all exciting stuff and we love it.
we love it so much.
That's fantastic. Does anyone from the board have any comments or questions? Well, thank you very much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank
See
you so
next
much
month.
for having us.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
good day. Bye.
Terrific. So agenda item number 5 is public comment.
I do not have anybody on the webinar for public comment.
Okay, thank you, Jody. Item number 6 is old business. Lisa, do you? Want to address this? This is the
Yes,
the meeting calendar for 23-20 fiscal year 23-24.
yes. If you recall, we had set the calendar for the first semester, and so this is for the second half of the year. I had sent it out to the board prior to it posting, and I didn't hear anyone individually have any questions. So we have set it through June 17th. We will have 3 more in-person meetings. It should be noted that these are regular meetings. They do not include the myriad of workshops and budget meetings that we have generally in January and February. And we will be talking about that calendar a little bit later in the meeting. So the only change that we have as far as it being on Mondays is, if you look, we moved the April meeting to the 24th. And that is because of the vacation week. And if you also notice on the January 15th, sorry, on Monday, it's going to be on Tuesday because of Martin Luther King. So I hope that these dates are all okay with everyone.
Yeah, if they're not, just, please let us know and we'll address it.
Can we clarify the April date? Is it a typo? What is it, Monday, the 22nd?
It's Wednesday. I just caught that.
It's Wednesday, the 20th.
Wednesday, the 24th, due to April vacation and Passover.
Okay. So Passover will still be happening. Some families celebrate the first 2 nights, but it is through the 30th.
I'm sorry, is there a concern, David? Do you want us to move it over one more day to the 25th or?
No, I mean, no, I think it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I just want to be clear that, it is, the Passover is the full week through the 30th.
Okay.
For most families, it shouldn't be an issue, I don't think. But it is through the 30th. So.
Well, Lisa,
That's when Westport and Wilton, I believe, were having their meetings, because I know this was one of the concerns why we didn't set it. So we checked our neighboring districts in looking at, let me look at it specifically in April. If we moved it, then if we wanted to not have it that week at all, we would have to move it to April 29th, which, certainly I guess is doable. It's what the board wishes to do.
What is, we're done with budgeting by then, right?
I'd have to look at, we have the budget calendar that's coming later, the proposed calendar. Phil, does that conflict with any dates? I'm looking it up right now. April, let's see. We have the annual town budget meeting is Thursday, April 20th. Now, wait, is that correct? Is that correct, Phil? I think the year might be wrong, actually.
So, yeah, we do not have the dates from the town as yet. These are holdover dates.
Oh,
From the
okay.
budget here.
Oh, I see. So all the shaded dates are holdovers, so we will have to work that out with the town when we have the annual town budget meeting. And I'm guessing if we're looking at Passover being around that time, it's got to be the following week. Along with the referendum would probably be the following week or into the beginning of May. So if the board would like to move it to the following week, that's fine. I think it just depends on what the board would like. We have school that week, but if you want to move it to the following April 29th, we can do that. Or if it looks like it's an area of concern based on the dates when we get them confirmed by the town, we could always bring it back to vote on the particular April one. Perhaps that's the best course.
Yeah, David, I'll leave it in your court as what you'd like us to do.
I mean, I think that to be sensitive to the community, myself included, I'd prefer not to have to pick between Passover and attending a Board of Ed meeting.
Okay. So shall we put April 29th then? Would you like to change that to April 29th on that Monday?
It works for me.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so we can, Ms. Saketa, can you please make a note of that? And we can certainly change that. That will be a remote meeting on at 6 p.m. That should be fine.
Yeah, and it still falls within Passover. I guess the real question is how far if we want to stay out of Passover, it would have to be after the 30th, because Passover is the 22nd to the 30th. I know how my family celebrates Passover, but
So May 1st, is that what you're proposing then?
yeah,
Okay.
It's perfectly fine with me.
and we could do.
Wait, folks, hang on. One question. If we go to May 1st, then we have another one coming up May 20th. So if we go, we should probably try to either just make it as symmetrical as possible. So if it makes it easier to go before the 20th, although that gets into spring break, perhaps. I don't know. I'll back out of this. Sorry. Maybe best to circulate dates once we.
I mean, we could do April 30th. I mean, Passover does end at sundown on the 30th. So we could do the 30th, that Tuesday, if we started at 7.
The administrative team is flexible, so whatever you choose is
Yeah,
fine.
no, I think we need to be sensitive to the Jewish holidays. So David, whatever you recommend, we'll do.
All right, my suggestion will be May 1st then, just to play it super safe.
Good. So it's May 1st, done.
Yeah.
So with that change, unless there are others, can I have a vote on the revised Board of Education 2023-2024 regular meeting calendar?
I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the revised 2023-2024 meeting calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, great. Chad,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Bernie,
Aye.
and I don't know if Peter's joined or not. Then I'm in favor as well. Second read of the Weston Board of Education policies, regulations, and bylaws. This is a discussion on the bullying prevention and intervention.
Yes, that's correct. And I'll let Melissa add anything if she would like. I know this is the second read. for
It
this.
is the second read. I mean, we went through it pretty thoroughly at our last board meeting, just to keep it fresh in everyone's mind. We had some changes from the state in terms of what a bullying policy should look like. We discussed it extensively in our policy committee meeting, as well as at our board meeting last month. We're very concerned and will continue to make sure that all aspects of bullying are not something that, that we follow the protocols related to bullying, but also focus on the educational components related to, these types of behaviors. And there's a lot of education involved, and that's in the policy as well. So, we didn't have any questions from the public, any comments come in. The administration didn't receive any. Did you, Lisa?
No, we did not receive any. I don't believe the principals did either, correct, principals?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really thorough policy that gives the administration and the schools a lot of leeway on how to handle these types of situations while following the law. So it's a pretty comprehensive endeavor, and I think it serves the students well. So we can call for a vote unless people have questions or comments.
As is proof, I read it. There's a small typo.
Oh. I'm
Where is that?
surprised. We read it so thoroughly. Please.
Open the
enlighten us.
contest so if someone else can find it.
Yeah, exactly. It's under improving school climate on page 21.
Okay.
15 is 21 insofar as like the PDF or scrolling through on the board book. But it's under this improving school climate. And after all the red line, it's very minor. It's each school has a safe school climate plan, which can be, the word currently reads count, and I believe it should be found on the district website.
Oh,
Thank you.
yep.
I did my homework.
We appreciate it, David.
He certainly did. Are there other comments or would someone like to move the approval of the bullying prevention and intervention policy?
I can.
Melissa?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I just have to find the language. There we go. I move that the Western Board of Education approve the updates to 5131.911 bullying prevention and intervention with the edit that David Felton just recognized.
Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Chad,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Bernie,
Aye.
and unless Peter's joined us, I approve as well. Let's move on to new business. Item 7A, discussion of health examinations for employees.
Yes, this is the first read of this particular policy. Basically, our policy was outdated. It involved tuberculosis testing, which is no longer required. So we updated it based on the current law. I don't know if you have anything to add, Melissa.
No, and this was pretty perfunctory.
Any comments or questions? So this is the first read.
Mhm.
I will say, Steve, the only other thing to say is that both the our new nursing supervisor and Tracy Edwards also looked at this to make sure we were in compliance.
Who I met on Saturday in the rain when I was buying popcorn from the Boy Scouts
Oh, nice.
Center.
I think everyone got a bag of that popcorn from the boys.
Out of curiosity, is this the policy, if there is such a policy, if someone is out sick for a certain period of time, is it covered elsewhere, if anywhere, that they have to present a medical note for being out for more than X number of days?
Some of that, if you look at it's under the superintendent may require examinations, and then that sort of falls under that, but there are other laws. If Dr. Rasmussen wishes to add, if you're out on, for example, FMLA or things like that, that doesn't necessarily covered by this policy, but that's covered by those laws. Dr. Rasmussen?
Yeah, I mean, there's aspects also related to when employees come back after a medical leave. And also we have provisions also in our contracts, so that we have related to the protecting that information. So yes, we do have provisions that go through that.
In the most basic sense, if I'm out tomorrow and I'm out again Wednesday, and then I go to see a doctor and I have the flu and the doctor says you can return to work in 5 days, I'm out 7 days. Does anything trigger that I have to provide the district, or I just simply say, I will return to work on, next Wednesday?
Some of that is specifically to a specific contract. But yeah, there's certain provisions, like for example, in the ASME contract, if they're out more than 3 days, that they provide a doctor's note that they can come back to work.
Thanks.
Other questions?
No, we don't need to vote on this.
Yeah, we don't
tonight.
need to vote on this. I'm sorry. I was reading
Yeah, it'll
something.
come to a second read next month.
Yeah. Item 7B, it's recognition. It's the acceptance of the Weston High School PTO donation for a 3-day self-defense training for all Weston High School seniors to be conducted during the physical education class. The donation has a value of $2,000.
Yes, because of the amount, this is just for you to graciously accept this terrific donation by the PTO. And I would ask Principal Ward to perhaps elaborate on this, please, Megan.
Sure. So we were introduced to the idea of a self-defense course from one of our parents in the community who had had a positive experience and wondered if this was a group that we might want to be in contact with. So our curriculum instructional leader for PE and health reached out, and we determined that it would be a positive fit. Historically, our SRO and the Weston PD would provide a day of self-defense training through our PE classes. So this was an opportunity to try this new program where students will get 3 days of self-defense instruction from this instructor from corporate Krav Maga. So the PTO felt like it was a viable program. It will be provided to all of our seniors before they go off to their post-secondary adventures. So we're very grateful.
Are there any questions or comments? Would someone like to make a motion, please?
I move that the Weston Board of Education accept the Weston High School PTO donation for self-defense training in the amount of $2,000.
Is there a second?
A second.
Thanks, Chad. Melissa,
Aye.
Bernie? Bernie? Chad?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Trying to Bernie one more time?
Aye. Sorry,
Really?
I froze for a second.
And Steve, aye. Lisa, 7C, the 23-24 District Improvement Plan.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. DeVito, if you please. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank our administrative team, both at the central office and the school level, as well as all of the curricular instructional leaders that helped us with this district improvement plan. You will see that we have a new design. It's hopefully more user friendly to the public in the terms of a book, and shout out to my executive assistant, Jody Saketa, for helping us with this. So tonight, what we are going to do is we are going to present the district improvement plan as a group effort. Our principals will cite some specific examples from their school improvement plans that highlight and show the, if you will, through line from the district to the school and then to the teachers. All of these plans will be posted by this Wednesday on the district website, and that includes the 4 school improvement plans as well. Next page, please. Thank you. Next page, please. I'd like to start here. I added a bit of a summary for the public, so to kind of give you an overview of the plan. This district and school improvement plan, we created a new visual. Shout out to one of our teachers of graphic design, Miss Arena at the high school, who designed it, because it's really important that people understand, how do we come up with these plans? And basically, we look at the vision, the mission, the beliefs of the Board of Education, what we value as a community, and we work on some very key areas of focus at the district level that are reflected in the school level with their own flair, depending on the age and the goals of that particular school. And there's really a through line right down to the classroom, especially with the ones that directly involved academic excellence. All of this work, I use the word, is woven together with intentionality and purpose. And the plans have specific action steps, data points, evidence indicators, as well as the staff's professional goals that reflect this work. And I'd like to call on the principal of the high school, Ms. Ward, if you can elaborate a little bit on that, Megan, of how you see all of the principals have been meeting with their teachers, how the teachers' goals are right in that sort of that bullseye with the student.
Sure. We've been having our goal meetings this month, and it's really nice to hear teachers really focusing on students in their classroom after doing some pre-assessments. So really focusing on those intentional learning strategies in the classroom, and you'll see those reflected in our goals and action steps throughout our plans.
And that's really important, because when you look specifically, for example, at both our quantitative and our qualitative data that we look for, you know, what a teacher in a classroom could be looking for in a subgroup of students is that piece to really push those students that she or he has identified in that classroom to achieve their personal growth as well as achievement. I want to take a moment to talk about both quantitative and qualitative data. They both serve as evidence indicators of success. And oftentimes people see standardized test scores and they get the impression that we are teaching to the test. We are using these tests that are listed as quantitative measures, both as growth goals and achievement goals. We took some time to put achievement goals and growth goals specifically in the academic ones. But it's important to know that, that our teachers, by providing rigorous instruction for learning with our students, the best quality instruction, the best pedagogy that we can give our students across the board, access for all, by differentiating that their performance will improve. It reminds me years ago, I've been here a long time, when we had the CMTs, if you remember that, instead of the SBACs, and the focus was on high quality instruction, because we know if the high quality instruction at scale comes and we can really support and push in that intervention, that the end result will be incredible results for our students. And that's what we're striving for. Mr. Doak, can you give us some examples of the types of formative assessments and different types of projects and things, the tasks that, especially at the middle school, that our students are engaged in?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Barbiero. So obviously not all of our curricular areas have standardized tests, but that doesn't mean that our teachers aren't interested in measuring student progress and helping them grow. So when you look at the middle school school improvement plan, for example, when you look at social studies, you'll see some familiar language around some of our performance assessments. You may remember for years we've done an interdisciplinary project. It used to be called Guardians of the Water Galaxy. We've actually expanded it even more, so there's more opportunity for student choice as well as student voice in how they complete that assessment. So for example, instead of having to be a water issue, it can be any issue around conservation and the earth. And it doesn't have to be a letter. It can be multiple ways of showing that. But what the teachers have done in conjunction with their curriculum instructional leader is developed rubrics to score these assessments. And it's using those rubrics that they will be measuring student growth over time. So the population project in 7th grade is another example of something like that. You'll see other areas, even our physical education and health area will have goals around how students are able to use their DBT skills to show leadership in PE, to take safe risks in PE, to push themselves beyond their comfort zone. So there's a lot of data that we're looking at. Some of it still is quantitative data. It's just not standardized tests, for example. And then of course we have others that use more qualitative data in terms of surveys of students' own perception of how they're growing. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and I would encourage you when the school improvement plans are posted, and we can also talk about this at a later meeting if you'd like more in-depth look at this, because I don't want people, especially the public, to think they're just teaching to the test. We're not just teaching to the test. It goes so much more beyond that. And we will report out. We start here now with the plan. We report out again in the winter and then in the spring with 2 different updates. So what's the rationale behind the goals? Why did we pick these particular goals? We have 9 key areas of focus this year: math, language, arts, science, the social emotional needs of our students, digital citizenship. All of those relate specifically to teaching and learning. And connected with that, in supporting our children, is the hiring and supporting of new staff. We have some exciting work going on there that Dr. Asmussen will talk about. The physical safety of our campus, which was, very much a concern in the spring with many families, and Director Rios will talk about that. You heard a little bit about our sustainability efforts. We are partnering with the town of Weston on that. Mr. Cross will talk about that. And finally, the last area of focus specifically is on our collaboration with the town of Weston to determine a plan for our campus in conjunction with the town needs. At this point, I'd like to turn this over. You can see there's a summary under each area of focus. And now we'll get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of the academics. And I would invite Assistant Superintendent Dr. Tina Henkel to speak specifically about mathematics.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here to talk a little bit more in depth around some of our academic excellence goals that we've outlined within our district improvement plan. As Lisa mentioned, the first section is focusing on specific content areas throughout the district. That's mathematics, English language arts, and then science. And you'll see some of these similar through line around goals throughout our school improvement plans as well. Last year when we talked, or in June, I should say, when we reviewed some of our performance indicators, we did get some feedback from the board around balancing both achievement goals as well as growth goals. So we did take that feedback into consideration and really looked at ways that we can elevate and focus around not only achievement, which sometimes is very easy to look at the achievement goals, but also focusing in the growth area as well. So the organization of our academic excellence section really does zoom in on achievement goals for all students as well as our subgroups. But then it also, you'll see a section that focuses on growth. And so where we can identify aspects of assessment where we can easily look at growth over time, we wanted to really separate out those goals and really zoom in that area as well, because we do believe around not only achievement, but also focusing on growth for students. So in the area of mathematics, as we have done in the past, we are maximizing our assessments that we currently have access to in the district. We have a balance between our predictability tools, which we use NWA in math and ELA, as well as our standardized assessments that we are required to administer with the state, which is Smarter Balanced and SAT. So you'll see a combination of NWA as part of our achievement and growth goals, as well as our standardized assessments in using Smarter Balanced and SAT scores. Within that, you'll notice that we are identifying specific action steps that we are focusing on throughout the district this school year that we want to really focus in on relative to measuring our achievement and our growth from the fall to the spring. And you'll notice that there's a through line between our district action steps as well as our school-based action steps. And we are looking at different resources we were looking at a variety of resources in the summer when we were identifying our goals relative to our tri-state report, our NEASC report, and really synthesizing a variety of different aspects to identify our goals coming school year. So you'll see that we really want to elevate our curriculum and our curriculum framework this summer and over the course of the next 3 years. So there is a through line around curriculum development, curriculum design, and really maximizing our curriculum and instruction leaders to help support that work and unpack that work with our teachers throughout the school year. We also want to focus, you'll see the through line between mathematics and ELA, especially with our multi-tiered system of support, which is our transition from SRBI, or scientific research-based intervention, where we're supporting students in intervention and what that model looks like in the district and identifying specific resources to help with that framework. In addition, we also want to leverage different models of support depending on where our teachers are relative to curriculum implementation. Specifically, if we were to zoom in an area that there is a higher level of need for specifically grade 6, let's say, where they're learning a new curriculum and they're implementing a new resource, we might deploy additional resources that we have in the district to help support that implementation. So Dan, for example, Dan Doak is maximizing some of his support for intervention and within his curriculum instruction leader model to help support grade 6 as we are transitioning with a new curriculum with our teachers. And I just wanted to give some time for Dan to kind of talk a little bit more about what that model looks like in grade 6 specifically, for example.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of excitement in math at the middle school. Not only are we building upon the Building Thinking Classrooms work that was started last year, which frankly has spilled over into all of the curricular areas. It's had such an impact on some of the instructional practices the teachers are doing. But this year we also have a math intervention specialist who's dedicated to 6th grade. He's only in our building for part of his assignment, but he's really maximizing his work with 6th grade as they roll out illustrative math, the new curriculum, both through a push-in model where he's really in there co-teaching with the 6th grade math teachers, as well as the pull-out model, where he still sees kids who need some intervention, some specialized, as Tina mentioned, the multi-tiered systems of support, some of that more the tier 2 or tier 3 intervention outside of the classroom. I also want to just put in a plug. Also, we're very fortunate to have the other math intervention specialist working with our 7th and 8th grade. We're really focusing on those transition years. So the 6th grade transition is very important, as well as the 8th grade. And having Kevin Joyce come down to the middle school has been a gift because he's worked for years at the high school. He's able to also push into classes, both 7th and 8th grade classes, as well as working with students in the small group intervention. So again, we're very excited to have all that energy continue to build on the work that was started last year.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, if I could just add too, we are really elevating some of our work around building thinking classrooms. That work was started prior to my arrival. And it, as Dan mentioned, it has expanded across the district, not only in mathematics, but also in the humanities area as well. And we are partnering with our neighboring towns who are also engaging in that work around different pedagogy and strategies around building thinking classrooms, which we spoke a little bit about that last time around getting kids up and working on vertical whiteboards and having more instructional discourse around different strategies for mathematics. And this coming, although in our August session, our teachers in grades 3 through 5 engaged in some more of that work, we're going to expand that on November 7th and really focus on secondary education as well. And we're partnering with districts in our local area to bring in a trainer for November 7th. So we're really excited for some of that work that we're continuing, and we're trying to think outside the box on how to work collegially across different towns to also benefit all of our teachers, as well as some of the work that's going on around the area as well. So we're excited for that. In the area of ELA, we have a lot of exciting work that's been started, that actually started over the summer during our Summer Curriculum Academy. As many of you know, we have adopted a new core curriculum in K through 2, and that's going to lead some of our work in 3 through 5 as well. Our goals obviously model and the same kind of structure as our mathematics goals as well, where we're looking at achievement as well as growth. And we're using similar measures where applicable around NWA, as well as Smarter Balanced and SAT. One new aspect of assessment that we are implementing this school year, because of our new core instructional resource at the K2 level, is a new universal screener called DIBELS 8. It is aligned to the different components of reading instruction, as well as the science of reading, aligned to some of the state requirements. And this will be a new implementation for us. And so we are looking at collecting that baseline data. Currently, it has been completed, and we have looked at some of our assessments for K through 2. So we're going to continue learning and growing and identifying additional ways to use that assessment to support curriculum instruction and implementation. Specifically within our action steps, we are focusing again, as well as in math and literacy as well. We had a team of teachers working over this summer to write our core curriculum in K through 2. We've gotten a lot of great feedback actually from the American Reading Company regarding Weston's implementation process, and they were blown away with the amount of time and energy that we put into the curriculum over the summer in preparation for the implementation, and they really said that we were ahead of the curve regarding the implementation of the curriculum with teachers prior to September. So we were really happy to get that feedback, and kudos to our teachers, because they really spent a considerable amount of time over the summer making sure that our teachers were prepared and ready to implement a new curriculum. We are still using our curriculum and instruction leader model to support different teachers across the district to help unpack curriculum and understand the new curriculum framework. And we're focusing on universal design for learning and looking at the pillars of universal design for learning, which is about access and engagement and integrating more ways to design choice within our curriculum projects and our units of study. Specifically, I'd love to have Laura kind of speak a little bit more about our curriculum implementation at the K2 level and how that's going. So Laura, are you on?
I'm here. Thank you, Tina. Great. We are fully immersed now in the implementation of the American Reading Company program in combination with our Foundations program and our Heggerty at the primary age. And it's worked nicely in combination with those programs. Our teachers are looking at multiple points of data. As Tina mentioned, we have the new DIBELS assessment this year, which has given us more tools to look at. for foundational skills, and then pairing that with what we see in the early assessments, and then of course with the classroom teacher daily observations in the classroom. And we've been working very closely with the teams. They meet twice weekly, once for a common planning time, once for after school at a team time. And we have our ARC trainer coming every few weeks. So it really has been a wraparound approach. And we are also seeing, as Lisa and Tina mentioned, that through line from the district goals to the school goals, right down to the classroom goals, where the teachers are unpacking all of that data and looking to see what the students in front of them right now need and where we need to take them next.
Excellent. And just to expand on some of the work in preparation for the next school year as well, as we know, we will be implementing grades 3 through 5 next school year. And in preparation of that, the intermediate school has been utilizing a look for tool that we designed at the district as a district literacy committee last year. And this year, our instructional coach will be focusing on helping teachers understand how that look for document aligns to classroom instruction, how aligns to the science of reading, so that they feel more comfortable when we engage in the professional development that Laura mentioned, moving into the American Reading Company within the following year. So our curriculum instruction leader at WIS has been slowly engaging in that work as we've opened the school year. And so next, the last portion of the academic excellence section is focusing on science. We did a lot of work last year to build a foundation around what other assessments we have to help support our predictability for grades 5, 8, and 11 based on the next generation science standards. As we know, we as a district and across the state, all districts are measured based on their math, their literacy, and their science scores. And so we really wanted to expand some of that work beyond curriculum and identify more of a common assessment that we could use to support grades 5, 8, and 11 to really help understand and unpack what it means to teach science based on the next generation science standards. It's quite complex. It's different than math and literacy. There's actually 3 layers of assessments that are woven together in science, which is different than what we see within math and ELA. And so finding the right tool to help us unpack those 3 dimensions of standards is quite difficult. We did find an assessment that we are piloting and implementing this school year that will help us with some of that work. It's called Inner Orbit. And our new curriculum instruction leader has already started implementing diagnostics and baseline assessment data throughout the district. The last 2 weeks, she's actually implemented the assessment in grades 9 in our biology classes, in grade 7 and grade 6 in our middle school classes. And then over the next 2 weeks, we're going to start looking at collecting some of that baseline diagnostic data in physics, in chemistry, in grade 8, in middle school, as well as our environmental sciences. So it's really helping teachers look at those 3 layers of standards, the practices in science, the cross-cutting concepts in science, the disciplinary core ideas in science, which really helps teachers understand the shift between how science used to be taught, where teachers may have provided information as a whole class, and now they're doing more investigations and conducting more problem-solving types of tasks and engaging in more student discussions. And it may sound simple, but when you're thinking of science and investigation, and there's a lot of metacognitive and thinking aspects of those tasks, sometimes it's really hard to unpack. And so we've gotten a lot of great feedback on that tool so far based on what we've introduced. And so we'll be able to provide you with some more details on that data as well as we move forward in the school year. And so section 1, as I mentioned, focuses mostly on the academics, core content areas, math, ELA, and science. Section 2 focuses on specifically school, social emotional learning and climate. And Tracy's going to transition into section 2 and talk a little bit about how we designed our goals and our action steps relative to SEL and climate. And so Tracy.
Thanks, Tina. Good evening, everybody. I am going to step us through district culture and climate as we continue our focus on the social emotional well-being of our students. Our overall goal this year is to strengthen connections between and among students, staff, and families, and to cultivate a sense of belonging within our school community. You'll notice that this section and this goal is broken up into 3 specific components: students, staff, and community. The first goal centers around the social emotional well-being of our students. We're focused on 2 primary areas this year. 1, increasing the number of students district-wide who report having a connection with at least 1 adult member of the school community, and also reducing chronic absenteeism at the elementary level. To support our work in this area, we're taking specific steps at each building to create a sense of belonging within the school community. And we are also taking specific action steps at Hess and Wyss around the chronic absenteeism. I do want to give the principals a brief opportunity to highlight some of the steps being taken in their buildings to support this work. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura first.
Thank you, Tracy. So we continue to use our resources from the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, specifically the RULER program, to help our students gain skills and strategies around social and emotional well-being. At the primary age, we spend a lot of time helping students understand their feelings, label them. We have vocabulary building lessons that happen in the classrooms. We also have units in our health and our PBIS all-school programs. And these really are consistent across Hurlbut and the intermediate school. There's a very coordinated effort between the 2 buildings to make sure that we're building, that the intermediate school is building on the foundation that we create at Hurlbut. Tracy, did you also want me to at the same time speak to the attendance initiatives?
Yes, please.
Yes. So we've always tracked attendance. We've always paid attention to it. I think in the last year with Tina's support, our district attendance committee was really revitalized, and we really took a deep dive into looking at the data. And it was quite telling, these statistics around students who were absent 9 or more days during the school year. So we've always reached out to families. We've always had conversations. We want to definitely take that up a notch this year because students need to be in school. For students to feel connected to their peers and their teachers and to be immersed in the learning, they need to be in school. Families do like to take their vacations, particularly at the elementary level. And it does become problematic because we know that students do get sick. That's just a reality. But then when you're adding days for vacations, long weekends, and then they get sick, sometimes twice, 3 times in a year, you're looking at excessive absences, sometimes 15, 20 plus days in a school year. And that has a significant impact on their connections to school, their building routines and habits at the early elementary years, and being in school on a daily basis as much as possible is really important. So we'll be working on that quite a bit this year.
Thanks, Laura. Dan, can you talk about some specific highlights in your building, please?
Sure, absolutely. Well, as everybody knows, middle school is a very important developmental stage for children. And the idea of connections is so important. We've always believed and worked hard to try to make sure that each student could identify 1 adult that they felt that they could approach, that they could trust, that they felt connected to. It's one of the reasons that the middle school has the teaming model. We break down a large grade of 8 classes of kids, and we separate them into 2 teams. So they have a smaller learning community that really feels more connected. The teachers know the kids better. The students know each other better. And obviously the students also know the teacher better. This year, one of our enhancements is really around our advisory program. We've struggled for years to really make that advisory period meaningful. I think we've done some really great work in the past, and at the same time, it's been somewhat academic in terms of the content and the lessons that we're taught. This year, we're focusing, as Tracy said, on connections. So we've actually rebranded our advisory program. We now call it Connect. It shows up on the student schedule every other week as Connect. And Patty Powers is our PBIS coach. That's the Positive Behavior Interventions Supports. She actually works with the administration, with counselors, with team leaders on coming up with activities that really will provide opportunities for students to connect with each other and with their advisory teacher, their Connect teacher. Again, these are only groups of about 10 or 12 kids. An example recently was during the Connect time, we did a walk and talk. It was a beautiful day. There was some prompts, some questions that the teacher would ask, and every so many minutes, the students would change and talk with a new student in their group. So really focusing on making those connections, making sure that students all feel connected to each other and to at least one other adult in the building is very important. And I think I can turn it over to Megan to talk about some of the initiatives at the high school.
Thanks, Dan. So continuing with the work of the middle school, I've mentioned this before, that this year we've increased the number of times our PACT, which is our name for our advisory, Positively Achieving Community Together. We now meet as our PACT groups every Wednesday, once a week. And we do all sorts of things during that PACT time to really increase the number of reports we have of students feeling connected, not only to the school, but to an adult in the school. We know that by the time students get to high school, we want them to be more and more independent, and they really enjoy that independence. And at the same time, we really want to ensure that they know who the adults are in the building that they can turn to. So to continue that work, we've really invested in our curriculum of PACT and establishing a sequence of events and supports and our lessons throughout the course of the year. And we are continuing to revise that as the year goes on. Additionally, you've heard me talk about Link Crew, which supports our new 9th grade orientation program. You heard mention of those transition years, which are so important to ensure that students have a seamless transition from 8th to 9th grade. We were really excited for our first kind of 5-hour 9th grade orientation this year to welcome our 9th graders to the high school. And the added bonus of Link Crew is that we have our link leaders that continue to push into that 9th grade PACT time throughout the year to really support that idea of connection and belonging. We are also partnering with Challenge Success this year. And we are so grateful to the PTO for their support of this program as well. We've had 2 out of 3 workshops so far, and we're really looking forward to additional workshops to guide students through some course choices and as they look forward to post-secondary planning as well, with a focus on a well-balanced student. And I'm going to turn it back over to Tracy.
Thanks, Megan. And thank you for sharing the school-specific information. I think one of the hallmarks of Weston is our focus on personalization. And I think all of those examples really get at the heart of that work. Our next goal, which is on the other half of the page that's presented right now, is designed to address the social emotional well-being of staff as measured by staff morale in their respective buildings on the school climate survey. As a district, one of our focuses this year is to integrate gratitude and mindfulness practices into various meetings, including faculty meetings, team meetings, and professional development experiences. Research has shown that both strategies improve sleep, mood, and overall health. Gratitude is also consistently associated with greater happiness, the ability to deal with adversity, and building strong relationships. These strategies will also be shared with families in the district monthly newsletter and in other school communications like the week ahead to support continuity between home and school. We're also making more focused efforts this year to recognize the contributions of members of our school community through thank you notes, staff announcements, and other communications. The bottom line is we have a lot of amazing people doing incredible work in the district, and we're just trying to be more intentional about drawing attention to those successes and celebrating the work that's happening on a daily basis. Select staff members are also participating in Sacred Heart University's Teacher Leader Fellowship Academy to build connections and strengthen the sense of belonging within our school community. Then if we flip to the next page, our final goal in the area of culture and climate addresses our community stakeholders. We'll be focusing on improving our response rate for families for the school climate survey when it's re-administered later this spring. Additionally, we are focused on finding new ways for parents to participate in community events and activities. We're also continuing to enhance our offerings for informational sessions on various topics and working to enhance our partnership with town and community organizations, including our PTOs, the Town of Weston, the Weston Coalition, and ADAP. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our Director of Digital Learning and Technology, Dan DeVito.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Tracy. So for information literacy and technology, our goal this year is really to empower all students to be responsible digital citizens in the global community by providing a future-ready technology-enhanced K-12 learning environment. You know, our major charge as educators is to prepare students for life after school. And, you know, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, we have to prepare them for stuff that we don't even know what technology will look like in that time. So as part of this, we have 3 major action steps. The first one is to strengthen the partnership between the library media specialists and the classroom teachers, so we can enhance the integration of the ISTE and AASL standards directly into the K-12 classroom learning. Part of this is to really build capacity and with the media specialists and the classroom teachers, because a lot of the ISTE standards should be embedded in the curriculum as they are. Part of this second action step is to also collaborate with staff to begin to develop a comprehensive understanding of what generative AI is and what is its practical application in a school setting. We know over the past year, this has been a very hot topic globally, not just in education, and it is here. And how do we use it in a constructive way in the education space? And our third action step is to identify units of study within the K-12 library media specialist curriculum and to create an articulated scope and sequence to meet the computer science standards. So this is also part of a state charge that the Connecticut is requiring all districts by 2024 to have a rigorous computer science program, K-12. I wanted to go over a little bit what the ISTE standards are, just so everyone has a clear understanding when I'm referencing this, and you'll hear me reference this a lot over the next few months and years. So ISTE is the International Society for Technology and Education. It is a global body consisting of thousands of educators across the world. And there are 3 different sections to the standards. I'm going to focus on the student section for now. So there are 7 different salient points for that. So I'm going to try to zoom in here because I know it's kind of difficult to see, but I may not be able to. Hang on a second. Okay. So you're looking at the empowered learner, the digital citizen, the knowledge constructor, the innovative designer, the computational thinker, the creative communicator, and the global collaborator. And I want to stress that as you read these standards, they're not heavily focused on technology itself. They're focused on the student and their ability to adapt in an ever-changing world. And there are major pieces to that that we, the media specialists and myself and Dr. Henkel, will be working with the entire district so we can truly make sure that we are implementing this as best as we possibly can. And we'll go back here. All right. And we also wanted to give just some examples of how the media specialists are already collaborating with classroom teachers. So I'd like to ask Ms. Canetta if you could just speak a little bit on some examples that are happening at the high school.
Sure. Our library learning commons is bustling. So often Ms. Sweezy, who's our new library media specialist, though not new to Weston High School, former social studies teacher, she's often meeting with teachers and their classes in our library classrooms. And of special note is the work that she's going to be doing to partner with our 9th grade World Studies teachers. So the 9th grade World Studies, they really took a look at their curriculum during the Curriculum Academy at the end of June. And we're tweaking and revamping that, and they've settled on a 9th grade capstone project. So that is in development this year, and Ms. Sweezy is going to continue to partner with the classroom teachers to fully develop that capstone project. And again, that capstone project is going to be a reflection of the work that we mentioned earlier in terms of our student-centered learning strategies and our universal design for learning key indicators in our assessment process as well. So we're really looking forward to that partnership.
Thanks. And another example is at Weston Intermediate School, the library media specialist, Ms. Reines, is going to be working with ELA teachers to embed digital citizenship curriculum right into ELA. So you can see we're already doing a lot of this, but we want to continue to build on this. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Paul to go over human resources. Paul, you are on the hot seat.
Well, thank you, Dan, for that nice introduction. Our goal within the Human Resources Department is really kind of focus on the newly hired teachers, with our goal specifically of being 100% of newly hired teachers meeting the district expectation to continue their employment the next year. Really, the theory of action behind this is really focused on if we can support our teachers to be successful, this will translate over to the success of the students in the classroom. So this really kind of get on almost like a two-pronged approach. One is also looking at our onboarding process, but also really focused on, which we already got worked on this year, is our orientation. Where we conducted, we had a 2-day orientation prior to the teachers coming in. Really focus on a variety of topics to really focus on the new teachers being ready to start the school year. We had a number of different, this was a team approach where Lisa, Joe Rios, Christina Brew, Dan DeVito, Dr. Henkel, and all the building principals were there. We also provided time for them to be actively going out into the classroom. And really we got some great feedback. Again, we've already kind of started along this way, where, for example, one individual in terms of, and when we asked for feedback, really, it was stated, and as quote, the orientation really dove into every detail that I didn't get in my prior district. This helps me be prepared and have more knowledge and for the district. Also, throughout the year, it's not just getting them started to start the year, but also is to support them during the school year. Where we conducted this in September, where we focused on how do you write the effective goals, looking at the Weston Teacher Evaluation Plan. Also tying this in is also within the state mandated team program, where the year 1 year teachers need to complete some various modules. And we will also look to continue this work throughout the year with on various topics, i.e. grading, progress reports, etc., as we want to support them to be successful in the classroom. And from here, I'm going to turn it over to the Honorable Joe Rios, our District Security Supervisor.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening, everyone. I'm very excited to be working in Weston. I started about 3 months ago. Still a lot to learn, but everybody's been welcoming, and I appreciate all of your support. So getting into safety and security, you can see that our main goal is to ensure that every member of our district community experiences a safe learning and working environment. Working with Lisa and collaborating with other administrators and staff, we've come up with some performance goals. The survey that recently was conducted in May, you can see how we're looking to improve upon those numbers. Again, keeping students physically safe, what parents had reported in the survey, and basically, working with the administrators, parents, students, so that we can improve those numbers, so that we do reinforce safety at all schools across our district. Some of our action steps, including, we're going to be reviewing our access control, our visitor management, reviewing our IP cameras, which are digital cameras, basically equipment, protocols, procedures, and working with the appropriate personnel and to gain a better understanding of our security needs, looking at our mass notification systems, also our evacuation sites. As you know, we have drills, but we need to continuously improve and test our procedures through drills, through after action reviews. We also are looking at reunification, where we go off-site and we reunify student parents. That's a very important component after a major incident takes place. We have completed the district security assessment with Captain Brodacki from the Weston Police Department. We also are looking to, enhance the safety of staff to appropriately respond to some type of a threat assessment training. And I thank Tracy Edwards for bringing in Dr. Elliott. I believe that was late August. We had a very valuable training for the entire administrators. Again, I know we're going to build off of that. Very important to us. One really exemplary example of working as a partnership with the Weston Police Department is, looking at our relationship with Chief Ed Henyon and Matt Brodacki, and the day-to-day partnership, the day-to-day police professional services that they provide to our campus really is exemplary. We're very fortunate to have SRO Jason Kim and SRO John Marsili in our schools. They are teaching internet safety classes, social media, drug and alcohol. Getting down and meeting with our students on a one-to-one basis is really important. I certainly also want to mention our security team. We have really 7 excellent security specialists. As you know, we hired 2 new security specialists this past year. Robert Daubert, who is doing a wonderful job at the middle school. And also we have John Aquino, who is our floater. John has worked at, he's primarily at Hess, Hurlbut, and he's also working at the intermediate school. I'm a firm believer that our guards should be able to work at any one of our 4 schools. So you might see them at different locations at different times based upon our needs. But the job that they do to security specialists and working hand in hand with the Weston Police Department, I think, again, we're very fortunate. And I think looking forward, we have a lot of bright pieces. We obviously are going to be going back and looking at our surveys and making sure that, the evidence indicators that our goals are met, and working with the administration. I'm really looking forward to meeting those goals. So with that being said, if there's not any questions, I'd love to turn this over to Mr. Phil Cross, Director of Operations and Finance. Phil?
Thank you very much, Joe, and good evening, everyone. Just want to give an overview of our sustainability initiatives. As you heard just now from the student representative, they're very excited about the rollout of the program. And this was really a student-led initiative. We started this process last year and it continued. We had some delay because of supply chain issues, and we really wanted to be ready for the rollout of this program. So at the start of this year, working with Mike Aikenhead at the high school, these students created the various programs for this. They created videos, they created signage for the bins, and they were directly involved in this implementation. During the rollout, during the implementation phase, they were at these locations, and they monitored the composting units, and they provided additional information to the students to ensure that the composting especially did not get contaminated. We do plan to roll this program out to the high school, to the middle school next. The green team will be working closely with Mike Aikenhead and his team with the students to ensure that we have another successful rollout of the composting program. We will continue the rollout as usual to the west, and then we'll see where we go from that point. As the students mentioned, they're also collecting recyclable papers. This was an initiative that they started last year. We had some hiccups with that program, but I think the program is fully functional this year and is rolling out successfully. We will continue to expand our sustainability initiatives during our budget discussions for fiscal 24-25. And with that, I'm going to pass it back to our leader, Lisa Barbiero.
Thank you, Phil. The last initiative that I would like to talk about this evening is the future planning. And if you notice the title, it says Future Planning with the Board of Ed, the Weston Public School Administration, and the town of Weston. It is really important as we work towards this initiative to work very closely with the town on this. Basically, is to determine a plan for our campus that reflects our district vision, mission, our Board of Ed beliefs and goals, and the aspirations of the town of Weston. Oftentimes it's said, the schools are Weston. Weston is the town, the municipal buildings, all of it together. We really have to work in partnership with the town, and that's one of our steps, to develop a cohesive design, not only for what needs to be done on our school campus, but also town government space. You may be aware we share space right now. The finance department is, shares space with the police department, with the crime lab, as well as the certain town departments. So we really need to, as we move forward, it can't just be, what are we going to do about the schools? It has to be, what do we need to do with the town? How do we prioritize that? Both town and schools. And how do we move that forward in a fiscally responsible manner? The first thing is that we really need to understand, when we're looking specifically about the campus and the educational component, is the Future Ready School Framework. And basically the Future Ready School Framework is one that is learner-centered, and it interweaves robust infrastructure, use of space and time, curriculum, instruction, community partnerships, budget resources, professional development. It's a wheel, and it really points to not forgetting one of those components, right? The wheel can't move if you pull out one of the components. And so we have to look at it through that lens, which is complex. And our facilities and operations department, under the direction of Phil Cross, is also going to be very involved in what are the top facility priorities and the costs needed in these schools. The last thing we want to do is to spend public funds on something that we may be changing a direction of how the space is used, and we don't want to certainly waste any money. So we have to look carefully at the priorities, create a timeline for capital projects, also looking at the town and what the town needs are in conjunction. And I think that that's very important. From our point of view as the educators, we need to research and identify exemplary schools and visit sites when possible. I'm really happy that last week, Principal Cadis and Assistant Principal Walters at the middle school went to an exemplary school in Connecticut on the UConn campus and came back with such interesting perspectives on the sustainability efforts there and the design of the elementary school. That certainly is, it sparks our interest when we go out and see how others are that have received this rating are operating. We will continue that by going to an EdSpace conference in a couple of weeks with several members of the administrative team. And the goal there is there are specific sessions on things like sustainability and learning, things like how to work on an infrastructure, how to look at building design compared to, as it integrates into curriculum and instruction. There's also the safety and security component and looking at those specifications. And later this week, we will be visiting a school that is renowned for its safety and security. Several of us will be going to visit that particular elementary school because we don't want to lose that piece it's very important. And finally, we continue to analyze the enrollment projections through the lens of grade configuration and section numbers. I keep telling my administrative team, enrollment is one thing. Enrollment goes up, it goes down, but how it relates to specific sections is the most important thing. Where are the board guidelines? What is the flex space? How many available seats do we have? How does that translate into, class size, section numbers? How does that translate into an overall appropriate plan pre-K-12? And as we know, in a communication that was recently sent out, the age for kindergarten, for example, is changing. You must be 5 by September 1st. So all of these things, how does that impact preschool? How are we looking at that? How are we looking at the students as they transition to the different grades? At the beginning of December, we will be having our SLAM report with Mike Suba, but also looking very closely at those numbers. We had a preliminary conversation about it with him because there was a surprise of a flip-flop between kindergarten and first grade this past year. So looking carefully at those numbers so that we are being fiscally responsible with the town. So there's a great deal of work to do in that area, and I welcome the opportunity to partner with the town leadership on that. In closing, so that's an overall about our improvement plan. We will be reporting out on our progress, as I stated earlier, in the winter, and then we do it again in the spring. There's much more detail in the school improvement plans where it kind of paints the picture of each one of specific initiatives, along with other initiatives in the area of music and art and social studies. That haven't been touched on, more detail on technology in the school improvement plans that I encourage you to look at when we get them all posted on the website on Wednesday. So we've been talking a great deal. We're happy to answer any questions. And if we can't answer the question, or if we need more detail, we're happy to find out that detail and to provide a thorough answer to the board. Thank you.
Well, everybody gets one question. No, are there any questions or comments from the board members? That's an enormous amount of information.
I have a couple of questions, but Bernie, I think defer to you first. You're always, as an educator, I always like to hear you speak first.
We can take turns. I've got a bunch of questions.
I have 3, so we'll interview our questions.
All right, sounds good. Just kind of going back and starting at the beginning and looking at the math goals. I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what the college and career benchmarks are for that math SAT that we're going to be looking at for student achievement.
Dr. Henkel.
Yes, thank you. So the state of Connecticut outlines the SAT benchmark for college and career readiness. There is a specific number for both math and ELA that outlines the benchmark for an 11th grade student that basically predicts their college and career readiness when they enter college. The number off the top of my head, it's a scale score number, something along the lines of either 530 or 430. I can't remember exactly. I don't know if Principal Canetta remembers that exact number. I can get that for you if you would like me to pull it up, but there's a specific scale score number.
460 reading and 510 math, I think.
Okay, I was close.
Yeah. We're in the ballpark.
I was thinking a little bit more like higher up before we dive into that special number. So the 9th grade has a separate set of assessments. So we're looking at evaluating 11th grade. So there's no 10th and no 12th evaluation, just SAT math. Do we feel like the SAT, what they offer as a math assessment, is comprehensive to evaluate how our students are doing in the specific math competencies?
So yes, In a nutshell, yes. I mean, part of this is that is a standardized assessment that is required and used for accountability purposes. We are using 9th grade NWA because there are linking studies to help us with predictability purposes when they do grow from 9th to 10th to then eventually 11th grade. In addition to that, you'll see in Megan's, in Principal Canetta's school improvement plan that she has outlined more specifically additional assessments like PSAT that they use in some of those alternate grades, such as 10th and 11th grade as well. In addition, I want to make sure that we go back a little bit too. At the district level, as I mentioned, we're looking to engage and maximize the tools that we have as predictability tools for universal screening and how we use them for instructional purposes to help with achievement when we are administering that spring assessment that the state requires. You'll see that throughout our school improvement plans, we are looking at additional predictability tools that are really linked to curriculum. What are the performance tasks that students are engaging in that are aligned to standards? What are the unit assessments look like? What are the types of questions that we're asking them that are more qualitative as well? Reflective journals, writing prompts. You can't get everything from a universal screener. We know that at the district level, that's our best measure to kind of consolidate multiple grade levels together, align that to a lot of nationally normed assessments and data predictability research that is out there. But we unpack that deeper and link that to curriculum and instruction in the classroom at the school level.
Megan, do you have anything you'd like to add? Not to put you on the spot, but
No, I think that it's nice to have the NWA, and then we also have the 10th and 11th grade PSAT. What's nice about the PSAT is we can take a look at the themes of the question. So in evidence-based reading and writing, we can really look at our students struggling with, gathering the best evidence and being able to answer that kind of reading comprehension question with the appropriate response, or looking at their analysis skills. In the math SAT and PSAT assessment, we really look at the categories of math, and we assess that for any gaps too, like how our curriculum is aligned. Sometimes it could be, related to a sequence issue, right? Like what comes first. And so I think all of those assessments really help to indicate where we still have areas to grow as well.
And if I can add, next month, just as a shout out, we will be doing our the report with the director of school counseling, who reports on college admittance, as well as SAT, AP, all of that, which is another measure. And not related to math, but another example of something more in detail in the plans, Bernie, is I know both the middle school and the high school have goals around language arts regarding our homegrown writing portfolios that we do in 8th and 10th grade, correct? Yeah.
So it sounds like there's so many pieces that are fitting into the math. And I know that at a district level, how much you can put in a goal is very limited because clearly you could go on and look at all of these things. I'm just wondering, looking at the benchmarks that are chosen, are there any other school-specific ones that we want to put on there that reflect, not necessarily external people evaluating our students? Important. I'm glad we've captured that with the tools we have. Is it worth having something that we have decided as Weston denotes what success looks like in the category of mathematics or in science or in ELA, that we have more control over in terms of adapting to the outcomes or measuring our shortcomings for our students in along the way in a formative way?
Yeah, we have been working, and I know that all the principals have provided a little bit more detail around teacher goals, but I can add a little bit more to some of the specific classroom level goals and department goals have really been focused on common rubrics aligned to standards based on performance tasks. So beyond a standardized, nationally normed assessment like NWA, PSAT, or SAT, the curriculum that we've been working towards focuses on having every unit have a performance task or some type of transfer of knowledge in a more qualitative piece where there's reflection, there's writing, there's more of the metacognitive piece where kids get to design, they get to show their thinking, and every district is designing or revising common-based rubrics to measure what that looks like, so we could look at growth over time in a more frequent basis. Because one of the struggles that we always have with some of these standardized assessments, which you know, Bernie, is that the timeliness is important. You need to be able to get that data quick enough so that you can respond instructionally in the classroom and make adjustments. And so that's also the balance when we look at these assessments at a district and school level, and the balance between saying we have assessments built into units, built into the school year, so we can respond on a more frequent, continuous basis at the classroom level. And that's really where the rubber meets the road when we're talking about the teacher work, the curriculum design, and looking at the goals that the teachers are really diving a little deeper into their departments or their individual classroom practices and the design of the learning on a regular basis.
It makes sense. My question is really honestly for all of the academic areas. So with the ELA and science, it sounds like within the building success is being measured by all of the things that you're listing and all of the formative assessments. District-wise, we are solely measuring based on standardized testing. So when you put the two next to each other, yes, it should transfer that what we do in terms of measuring our content and having good academics in the classroom should translate into test scores, but I'm sometimes feel like it might be a little apples to oranges, like it's not, they're not linked to one another. And I'm wondering if we could look at our goals and find a little bit better continuity between how we're measuring student success on an individual level, on the building level, and then also on the district level.
Well, one thing I could suggest is, and I know they are in the school improvement plans where, as I said, about the writing portfolio, we can certainly share that progress, not just at, we do the district level, but also by the school level with some specific examples, like we talk about the writing portfolio, the capstones, things like that. I think that all speaks to that. So we can certainly include that in the winter update. And report before, if you'd like, on some other specific school targets, that when we share it at the, in the progress report, that we include that as well. Because, as Tina said, we also now have growth goals, which I think is really important. How are students growing? Not growing, these are all students. If you already meet the standard, still, we want you to grow. And if you haven't met the standard, how close are you to meet it? So that kind of shift as well, I think, is very important to put out there.
Yeah, if I could just say one more thing, what is consistent across all the grade levels in all the content areas are the standards. So if you design an assessment or you use a summative assessment, they're all supposed to be connected to the standards. That's why we take so much time designing and identifying the assessments to use at a district, school, or classroom level. So what the expectation is, as you know, is the standards. And those are defined in every content area at every grade level. So if we've connected to those, then we know that there's that continuity and through line at every grade level, regardless of the assessment we give. And I think to your point, Bernie, we do need to maybe unpack some of those standards and look for patterns to focus and unpack that a little bit more, because you don't really see that necessarily in the way these are written. But we can definitely do that, as Lisa mentioned, when we come to that mid-year and look at different, specific standards that we want to really focus and zoom in on. Good point. I'll take it.
Thank you. David, if you want to, I'll give you a turn.
All right, I'll stay with the academic. I have questions as well, but I think that kind of as we go through the slide deck, whatever. So I'll stay on the academic side. So my question is, it's kind of around. So I always think of Weston as being, or should be considered, an academically challenging district. So based on that, my first question is, with the new curriculum, is it more or less or on par academically with the from a academically challenging perspective? Is it the same as in the past, or has it is it up, is it down? Like, where with the new curriculum, where do you see, where is it academically?
Are you talking about math
For
specifically?
reading, I think, right? Or math?
Reading and math, actually, both, right?
Okay.
Because they're new for
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so for K2, and I'll let Laura jump in a little bit, but there's a lot of different components of the new reading curriculum. There are a variety of authentic texts which was a requirement of our teachers. We wanted to make sure that there was a variety of levels of text that were both supporting the needs of students and readers that are very affluent readers and readers that need additional support, and also different varieties of genres and interest levels within the book. So that's definitely something that we have found to be a plus, right? There's a plethora of authentic texts in the new curriculum. We also wanted to make sure that there's assessments to understand the different pieces of reading that make our readers high-level readers. Blending sounds together, decoding of words, all those components of what makes a high-quality reader, especially at the early grades, K1, 2, right? And so there are assessments built in there as well that we're using. They're new. We're using them now. We are learning that the data that we're gathering is helping us create small groups and really focusing in on the needs of the different students at all the grade levels, K1, 2. There is a lot of instructional strategies that the teachers are using in the classroom. Some mostly aligned to what we already were doing, and some new ideas as well. And then also we're looking at ways to help parents also transfer some of that instructional practices at home as well. So those were some pieces that kind of really stuck out to me when I was listening to our curriculum and instruction leader, as well as our teachers, as they've been implementing the first unit. They're in the infancy stages. They've only gotten through the first half of the first unit. But Laura, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, Tina, you covered a lot of it. We have very highly trained teachers with a lot of experience, so that, this is their first go at implementing the new program, and they're already making adjustments. They know their students, using books that are appropriate for the students. It is a program that is designed to really hit hard the foundational skills. Hurlbut really is the time that has to be 100% solid before students move on. So we are seeing that some of the comprehension work, it comes a little later in the program, and that's by design.
So at the WIS level, which is where we see some of the struggles, would you say the baseline for the new programs is on par, or it's more academically challenging or less from the previous programs?
Yeah, it's hard for me to compare apples to oranges directly, because the new curriculum explicitly outlines the science of reading pieces in the 90-minute block that is for instruction. I will say that it is the authentic texts are aligned to what our expectations were prior to the adoption. We also made sure that the assessments that were built in were aligned to the same kind of data that we were gathering prior to our transition with American Reading Company, to make sure that we were able to identify specific aspects of reading, that those foundational skills that Laura was talking about, that are explicitly assessed, so we can really zoom in on areas that we know kids are doing really well, and then how do we respond if kids need some additional support. I think it's a little early to compare apples to oranges, but from what I'm gathering from the teachers, there's a lot of layers and a lot of resources built into the curriculum that creates a structure for reading that was not as structured as it was before. So I think the structure is something that they are valuing, and they're seeing a lot of a change in practice regarding how students are responding to reading instruction, which is a good thing, so that they're making sure that every student is getting all the components of foundational reading every single day, because it's built into the lessons.
Okay. And just my final question is, so with the SILs being full-time, is there a way to determine the effectiveness of the full-time SILs on a program that's also changing with new goals? Like, how do you disassociate or associate? I mean, really what I'm trying to get at is we made the investment into full-time SILs, and of course the expectation should be better academic, or as I think Lisa would say, academic return on investment, right? So is there a way to disassociate the improved scores that we're all hoping to see in the spring and from the SILs, like try and figure out program SILs and how do they work together and how are they independent?
Yeah, I'll start, and then maybe if anybody else wants to add, because they're living in the buildings as we speak. So the department, remember, we have 6 full-time SILs, but 12 total. 6 of them are half-time or less than half-time. And those that are full-time, I will say that I did get feedback from them that talked about the number one, the huge difference that they have in the ability to get into classrooms, visit with teachers, gather instructional data, unpack and align that data to the instructional goals and coherence and planning, much more so than they had before. So that's definitely the amount of time spent with teachers is something that we can quantify much clearly than we did before. The other piece beyond student achievement data, because all of our SILs connect their goals to school and classroom goals. It's kind of the indirect expectation when you're just like we as administrators, we write our district and school goals to ensure that the outcome of student achievement is improved, right? And so there's an indirect expectation that our work is related to student outcomes. Same thing with the SILs. But an additional layer of this is that we are looking at gathering pre-survey data around from teachers that the SILs are working with. Right now, we have already engaged in 18 teachers throughout the district that our SILs have already started with coaching cycles. Which is great because it's only been a month and a half of instruction. And we're already seeing that teachers are really excited to be able to have a thought partner and someone who is really helping them build their practice and have somebody to bounce ideas off of and help with planning and implementation of curriculum. But we're going to add teacher surveys where we look at the teacher confidence levels around implementing new strategies, receiving coaching. What are the perceptions from teachers regarding the effectiveness of coaching prior to working with them and then after working with them? So we're going to, in addition to student achievement data, we are going to be adding survey data based on those that have been working directly with the SILs. So a lot of that part is going to be qualitative.
And if I can just add,
Sure.
I go around to, as Tina does and Tracy, I'm in the buildings all the time. I went to all 4 buildings today, and I especially do like to go into math to see, what's going on. And so what do I see? I see interventionists that before were pulling kids out. I see interventionists spending half of their time in the classroom. I see SILs leading the data team meetings in a way that I haven't seen before. In that, I walked into the intermediate school and they were all in the science lab. 2 whole grade levels were in there analyzing and looking at math scores. It was being led by the SIL. Previously, you know, when you would go, you would see a SIL in a room working with a small pullout group, because half of the time that's what their responsibility is. Now you see a SIL. I was over in Laura's building, and the language arts SIL was sitting in there working and modeling with the teacher the new program in small groups. So just seeing that, I can see a shift. Now, our hope, but hope's not a strategy, right, is that it will impact student achievement. And that's what we're really hoping for. The SILs are having more training this week, correct? Isn't there? Or the reading training is this week, right? Laura's shaking her head. I was looking on, I think it was your calendar, Tina, where
Yes,
they're putting in their
Thursday.
training again for that reading. And with regards to the difference in the program, I'm not an expert on reading, although I do know that I see direct, explicit instruction of reading in a way that I hadn't seen before. So it's really, I think, a very exciting time here in our district.
I have some questions, unless David, do you want to jump in next?
I just jumped in.
I'm sorry. Sorry. You did. Sorry. Steve, did you want to jump in next, or shall I?
No, go ahead, Chad.
Okay. All right. So my big overarching question here is, this document to me seems like a giant yes and, which is like yes to all of this. The goals look really robust and really, sorry, not the goals. The document itself, the intention looks really robust to me, but I feel like what's missing as I look at this is that final 10%, which echoes a lot of the topics Bernie was bringing up, if not exactly, but at least the direction of those, which is this. I don't see any of the qualitative things that the administration is talking about right now reflected in these actual goals, meaning all the goals pretty much are essentially just quantitative data, meaning lots and lots and lots of goals for percentages on the NWE, other assessments. So my question is, as your Board of Ed, what can we do to make these performance goals reflect all this incredible stuff you're talking about in the classroom? And Lisa and Tina, a bunch of these things just came out of your mouths, like unit assessments, writing prompts, performance tasks, metacognition, like all of the stuff that you're saying has happened in the classroom, which, by the way, if there are folks in the public who are listening to this, I get the great privilege of being in the curriculum committee meetings every month, and I hear a lot of the things that you're talking about happening, but that's not reflected in this document. So I'm curious, how do we put a bunch of that sort of qualitative assessment into our goals so we know what we're measuring against and seeing what is successful in those things that are not just standardized assessments?
I think it goes back to the sort of the purpose of the district improvement plan, if you will, compared to the school improvement plan. And so if we look at the district improvement plan and these initiatives that we're looking at, and these broad areas of focus, if you will, and then we look specifically at achievement targets and growth targets, again, broadly, not necessarily by grade level or what a specific grade level is doing or specific areas at the schools are doing. That's kind of the overall, if you will, snapshot of what is the work about and what are we doing. Where the rubber really meets the road is on the school improvement plans. And each school improvement plan, quite frankly, if we went through it tonight, we would probably get done after 12 o'clock because they're so involved and they do speak a lot to the qualitative data. So what I think that might be important is when we I would encourage people to look at the school improvement plans. We put the links on the website. We can put them in the upcoming update principles that we send out to have, it would be kind of like, okay, this is great, but how does that impact my kid at the intermediate school? What's going to go on with my kid in the area of, the social emotional needs? Oh, okay, this is what's going to happen with the new units from Yale. This is what's going to happen with foundations in third grade. These are the goals with that. That's where you see a lot more of the kind of the in the weeds, if you will. So I think that part of our challenges is kind of synthesizing it to you with and that's why I had that graphic at the beginning, but really as you go in and see the school improvement plan and the teacher's goals, that's where the rubber meets the road. So I think what we need to do to better clarify that, quite frankly, is when we report out in January to have it be more of a school focus, if you will, with that qualitative piece, because they do exist. We can also do a shorter version of just here are all the qualitative things that we're happy to kind of pull out and put into a 1 or 2 pager, if you will, if that's helpful before the winter. But that's where you will see that, if you will. You know, when you look at things like just even the portrait of a graduate and that process that students complete, so much of that is qualitative. And at the end, what they say about their journey is so important. When you read their essays in those writing portfolios, when you look specifically at tasks that they're doing in social studies, for example, at the different grade levels, 6 through 12, that's where you'll see more of the qualitative work that we can certainly highlight for you.
Well, I appreciate all that. I mean, I'm a huge fan of what's happening in the classroom based on what I see in the curriculum committee and more. I guess it's just it's even more explicit than that. What is preventing us in all these yellow margins on the top of page 7, page 9, page 11, et cetera, where we have these numbers? What's preventing us from putting in there in the district improvement plan goals that map to improvement in these qualitative things? These are what I'm about to say is dumb, by the way, to be clear, everybody, public listening, these are the ideas I was jotting down. None of these are probably good, but you all have good ideas. So what about like number of books checked out, drop in total disciplinary actions, percentage of classrooms that are trying an innovative approach, flipping the classroom, illustrative math, project-based learning, total number of parent volunteers for events, total number of like guest lecture reviews, total number of hours spent in the lab. Like, again, I'm not saying any of these are smart. These are probably like totally random, but I hear all of you talk about these really great qualitative things. Can't we put those in the actual district improvement goals?
What you just mentioned about, I don't know, 10 to 15 things that we could certainly look at. I could think of another 30, to be perfectly frank.
Lisa, I don't think mine are good. Mine are just like, this is,
I mean, there are so many specifically where you look at what is the percentage of people, and that's why we put in, what are the percentage of parents that feel that their child is safe in school? Sure. That's pretty much qualitative. What are the percent? You know, we didn't even get over 30%, 35% of parents to respond to our survey. How can we get more of that? We can certainly look at, you know, programmings and things like that. How many family can, how many parents attend different programs? And I know that, you know, Ms. Edwards keeps track of how many people come to these different things. So we can certainly do that. I'm hesitant to put a long list of specific qualitative targets. I hear what you're saying, and I think that we can expand upon that because we certainly have that capability in the library itself. You can see how many books students check out, how many students at the intermediate school are going to get a coin to use the book machine because they did something kind for someone else. These are all things that we can certainly you know, come up with. But I would say that I think that data is worth sharing, but also at the school level, because it sort of speaks to what's going on at the schools. And we can certainly, we have a meeting this week, guys, our principals meeting, we can certainly generate some other qualitative measures that we think are important and have our staff look at them while we're going through the, you know, through our focused work. Dr. Henkel, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
I do. Chad, I think those are great ideas, and you'll see that those qualitative pieces are outlined in our evidence indicators at the district and school level. Mm-hmm. And we do have those goals and really look at them. But what you're speaking to are the conversations we have when we meet with teachers, because that's where we really start to dive deeper into the classroom instruction and the classroom student outcomes that the teachers oversee, which then relate back to those high leverage action steps within the school and district plan, which has evidence indicators, right? Because there's classroom data, there's surveys in there, there's performance tasks, there's curriculum-based measures. Those are outlined in the evidence indicators. But then how do we know that those are effective? Based on those standardized and nationally normed standards aligned achievement indicators. So I think of it like, I hear what you're saying, and we do look at that, but in this format of the plan, it just wouldn't make it. That's not the purpose of these, the format of these. It's our job when we meet with teachers to have that same exact conversation that you were just asking us to do at a district level. But we do that on a daily, ongoing basis with our teachers individually based on the students they have in front of them. Then we are managing the curriculum and what the design looks like to ensure that when we look at the outcomes on a standardized level, it should be reflected in those goals. So I think of it like as a backwards kind of funnel, right? And some of that you don't see. We do try to do it a little bit more at the curriculum committee, as you noted. So plug for our subcommittee meeting, that is sometimes a lot of where it lives. That explanation is really living in our curriculum committee meetings. We unpack that. We try to, show what it looks like and what it sounds like in the classroom. But at the district level here, we expect all those things to be happening from the school level, in the classroom, at the classroom level, then to the student, the school level, by grade level, by course. And then at the district level, we are expected to monitor that, right? And this is how we monitor it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the evidence indicators. And to be clear, that list of things I just threw out, I'm not suggesting those are even good things to qualitatively look at. Some might be.
They are.
I know that you all have all these really robust qualitative things you look at, but looking at this as someone who is tasked with trying to get a snapshot of how the district is doing, that's entirely missing from these yellow sections. So yes, I see it in the evidence indicators. That's great. But what I don't see anywhere within the yellow is, like, let's take math as an example. There's nothing that's saying like percentage of students who engage in a project-based learning something over the year, or percentage of students who have access to classrooms with illustrative math, or number of classrooms with, I don't know, Dan would know what the words are for this, but with whiteboards on 3 sides of the walls or whatever it is. None of that is in here. So, I mean, the way to really test this sort of thing that I'm pushing on is if we don't hit our targets, and this gets to David's point about how do you disentangle these things. If we don't hit our district improvement targets that are outlined here, what do we change? Meaning we don't have any input, any insight into this except for these test score numbers. So as someone who's trying to get my arms around this, it seems incomplete. It doesn't seem bad. It's not a critique. It just seems like it's incomplete on the yellow section of understanding how some of this qualitative information that you're gathering and working so hard to gather, how it can actually give us a snapshot of how the district is doing.
I think that, the focus on improvement is on improvement. And when you look at these kinds of these data targets and the achievement goals, it's all about improvement. We could give a list of, how many kids do project-based learning? Every child in Weston in math does a project-based learning experience. What are the enrollment in the, the AB Calc, in the BC Calc? How many students are prepared at the 8th grade standard level to be able to tackle, high school math? Just a number of whiteboards all around the room. That's in all of the classrooms now. That doesn't necessarily, that's all part of the district-wide definition of student-centered learning in math. What does that mean? Do you understand what it means? Do you understand what it looks like? What are the projects you're doing? What do the rooms look like? What does the grouping look like? I mean, you can get down and down and down, but overall, in doing that and turning that into action steps, using building thinking classrooms, there's probably 20 things that we're expecting teachers to do in the classroom. But I would say that is not something that we would necessarily put an achievement goal. It's what the work is to bring up the achievement and the growth. And there's a myriad of things that go into that it's quite frankly challenging at best to list every single thing. We can report on cycles of coaching. I can tell you that all of these classrooms have these white erase boards. A lot of that is anecdotal, but again, it has to relate to achievement and growth because that is really what we're looking at in improvement plan.
Yeah, please don't misinterpret my random suggestions. Like I really I don't even know if measuring whiteboards in the classrooms is a good idea. It might be a terrible idea. I have no
Good
idea.
idea.
But what I'm responding to is you've said improvement and growth and achievement. Yeah. But the only way we're naming improvement and growth or improvement or growth or achievement right now is based on, and I'm just looking at, math, for example, 80% up from 73% in NWEA, 79% in Smarter Balance, 75% in NWA, 74% in Math SAT. All that seems to be good. Again, it just seems incomplete because there must be some things that we can weave in here that help give us a sense of how the district is doing qualitatively. Simply because, the beginning of your document, Lisa, and you said this very, minute, whatever it was, an hour and 10 minutes ago, that to the parents who are concerned that we're teaching towards a test, or there's all these things we're doing. Again, I have a lot of insight into that, but someone who's trying to then responsibly give you all a sort of backstop and an audit about how the district is doing, what's in these yellow boxes doesn't really help me that much beyond these numbers based on scores. So I guess the challenge would go back to you. How do we show improvement, achievement, and growth? Here's one example. For example, like blue ribbon status. What do they measure to do that? I know that the recent Connecticut sort of standards has a lot of focus on truancy and things like that. I'm not trying to make an external metric. I don't think we need to shoot for that necessarily. But what are the things that we could look at that could fit in this yellow box that are qualitative snapshots, so your board can be as informed as possible to see how the district is doing?
Can I ask a different question?
Sure.
There's just an enormous amount of information here and an enormous amount of goals, all of which impact the student. How do we engage the parent? How does the parent know what we're attempting to accomplish in the classroom? Because it starts at home. It doesn't start when they walk into the building. How do we engage the parent so they're aware of what we're attempting to do?
I think that, principals and Dr. Henkel and Tracy, please feel free to jump in. I think that the way that we engage the parent is to communicate as much as possible and highlight as much as possible what is going on in our schools. And that can be from the detailed school improvement plans that we have, posting it on the website, linking it, blasting it out, doing weekly, the week ahead, which highlights specific things, not only going on in the school, related to co-curriculars, but also to instruction for learning. We send out weekly ones, we send out monthly updates. We try to highlight things on, what's up in the Weston Public Schools, where, through my podcast, I'm doing one on kindergarten, for example, this month, and to keep sharing that information with parents. The other thing is at the conferences, when parents are sitting down with teachers at conferences, to be able to look specifically at, they have questions, they can see that their performance results in the different tests that we send out, and the parent and the teacher sit down, looking at the student work samples, looking at and explaining the growth scores and all of that. I think one-on-one with all of those conferences, K-5 are very important. The constant communication is very important. The team meetings at the middle school. I don't think there's any one answer, if you will, Steve, but I think it's a multitude of answers. That's one of the reasons why, quite frankly, we put the statistics in about school attendance this year as an attempt to get the word out from parents that, when 60% of children in the elementary school are out more than 10 days, that's a problem, as Laura spoke. That's a problem. And a lot of it, I'm going to just say it, are vacations, long ski weekends. There was a little youngster in second grade sitting in the back of the room crying. And I said, why is he crying? He was out of school on vacation last week and he couldn't readjust to being back in school. Those are the kinds of things that we're trying to put out there and provide information and to engage. One of our commitments this year is to offer more programs. I know that Principal Canetta has done a terrific job with parent success. They had a parent program just a couple of weeks ago, inviting the parents to come out. Ms. Edwards has monthly programs. And, you know, sometimes you don't get very good turnout, but if we can videotape it, right, like last spring, we were all there. One parent showed up for one of Tracy's presentations, but we videotaped it to get it out, to send out the links, to engage them as best as possible in what is going on. Dr. Henkel, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I think communication just at the school level and the classroom level is key, right? Parents want to know how their individual students are doing, and it doesn't get better than having individual conversations with the teachers. We are always communicating with performance and achievement and growth with our parents from the school level. And then the principals are doing an outstanding job with their weekly updates to let them know how they can get engaged in the schools based on what activities they have. So I think from a parent of 4 as well, I also always want to know how my child is doing relative to achievement. And that is a one-on-one conversation with the classroom teacher based on the expectations at whatever grade level they're at. And so I encourage, parents to use those conferences, as Lisa said, to really dive deeper into the performance and growth of their individual students and how the teacher is meeting their needs, because that is, as we keep saying, that is where all of the additional pieces of the learning design and the performance task and the various ways that students are transferring their knowledge and skills, it happens at the classroom level with the classroom teacher, and they know best.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Melissa.
I just wanted to piggyback on that a little bit. I mean, I think Steve's question is probably the single most important point of this whole presentation, which is, so much of what we want to achieve in this district, we can't do on our own, and we need the parents. When I went to that Challenge Success parent seminar, and I thought it was fantastic. I do think it's challenging for parents to be able to attend some of these things. And when I was talking to Principal Canetta at the event, she had the idea, and I wonder if the district has thought about it. She articulated to me kind of maybe opening some of these things up to other districts and partnering with other districts when it comes to some of these issues that all of our peer districts are also struggling with and interested in. And then maybe, you're sharing resources, you're increasing attendance, you're getting a little bit more buzz going on about some of these endeavors. So I just, I put that forward. It's not my idea, it was Ms. Canetta's, but I think it's something worth thinking about in the context of all of this.
Can I ask one more?
Sorry, just
go ahead, Megan.
Because we also talked afterwards and talking with John Kleiman from Challenge Success. So, we could do this through Zoom and Google Meet, because I think what we see is we build some momentum. I think everyone that attended the Challenge Success workshop gave it rave reviews. I know they gave that feedback to middle school parents too, and there were lots of ideas circulating. So the more we can continue those conversations and kind of say, all right, well, who needs to be involved in the next conversation or the next workshop? There was talk about the middle school, and I think the more we can connect families to the work, whether that's through the week ahead, through our school climate committees, all of that work is happening, and we totally understand. I am a working mom, right? That I can't get into my own children's school. So we want to make those opportunities available. And, we have learning management systems. We have Canvas at the high school. They have Google Classroom at the middle school, right? So we have all of those avenues for people to get involved. But in the end, it becomes, we're here, and we would love families to be in touch.
And just one more question and observation. I mean, one of the unique aspects of the Weston school system, it's very intimate. It's 4 schools. I heard, some kids go to school, from kindergarten all the way through high school, and they've known each other for 12 or 13 years, and they've developed incredible friendships along the way. Once they graduate, do we follow them at all to see how well they've progressed as they've gone on to either higher education or whatever they've chosen to do after they've graduated?
That's a little bit harder to do, I guess I would say. I would say to you that if you talk to our teachers, especially at the high school level, or that's not really fair. Some of the elementary school teachers, like the teacher of the year, Sharon Wynn, for example, because of those personal connections, have all kinds of connections with our students. Do we do any formal systematic thing? No. Several years ago, trying to remember when there was a statistic. The most important thing is it's not like, okay, all these kids graduate. It's do they graduate college? And that's, I'm trying to remember, maybe you can help me, Dr. Heinkel, where there was some calculation of it that was done definitely at I know at the state level, if it wasn't more in this region, where our students, you know, they say in 5 years, how many students have graduated? And it was like 70-something%, which is really good compared to other districts. And I remember the former superintendent, Dr. McCursey, talking about that all the time. But you will see, you know, I'll give you an example. Today I was in the at the book fair, Hurlbut, and there was a Weston High graduate, and she's living here now, and she's bringing her children to Hurlbut. There's one in preschool, there's one in preschool, and I think it's first grade, Laura. Anyway, she was there, and she said, do you remember me? I went to, you know, I'm from Weston, I came back to Weston. So many families you see come back. And I think that's a testament, as well as so many, you know, it would be interesting. I don't know how we could quantify, because once they leave, you don't have the emails.
No, I just don't, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone does it, but they get such a great education here, and everyone seems to know everybody that, you know, it'd be interesting to see if it's even possible how.
Yeah, it would be interesting, because I mean, just even asking our teachers, so many of them are connected. I see Mr. Doak shaking his head, connected to our students. I mean, I know I am, where I'll hear from them and, you know, oh my gosh, you know, somebody that I had back in 1991 is coming out of the woodwork telling me about, you know, this wonderful life and what they've done and what they've accomplished. And
well, you've said multiple times, or it's been said multiple times in this presentation, how you want a student to have at least one adult in the building to interact with. Right, so they formed a friendship and a trust with that one, and, you know, possibly more, maybe, you know, at the high school level. Anecdotally, you could say, you know, Jane Doe just graduated from college, and I don't know, just a random.
Or wanting to come back for their reunions, and we'll get contacted. And I took 2 of the 5th grade teachers to lunch in the high school cafeteria. They were going to go buy their lunches. So why don't you come across? I'll give you a ride to the golf cart and come in. And I think Megan was there in the cafeteria that day. They were like celebrities when they went into the cafeteria. They said, oh, our whole team should come, because they were like, oh, Ms. Wynn, Mr. Brode. They were all, you know, and you see that. How do you quantify that? It's just I guess part of one of the things that I'm really proud of is I have almost 2,000 followers on Weston Instagram. That's a great statistic. Like the people that want to see what's going on. It's kind of the portrait of the community.
You are the Taylor Swift of the Weston school system. Congratulations. Do we have other questions or comments?
I have 3 quick STEM hits and an SEL question. Can you hear me?
Yep, go.
So I reviewed this earlier today. So on category 3, which is science, since it's hard to have an exact performance metric with NGSS, you know, my thinking would be, could kids or classes accrue sort of credits as they move through the system? Because that would be sort of a carrot as they move through the system and they perform in science. Could they get, I don't want to call it an incentive, but is there a credit system? If something happens good, because they've been doing these little things. They don't quite get a grade, but if they do a little better, they get something at the end. I don't know. I'm like Chad. It's an idea. You can run with it or not, but that's hit number one. Hit number two is for Dan DeVito. You know, I know Chad and I have talked about this. It's like use of technologies. It turns out on Friday, I secured the CHIPS Act, right? Semiconductor CHIPS Act. They have a DoD grant, and it's to teach middle school, high school students interested in Python programming how to design a chip. So we actually will get some resources later this year from a colleague of mine to do a little bit of how to use technology outside of their iPhones. That's kind of neat. Thank the DoD for that.
Good job, Peter Gordon. Thank you, DoD.
All right.
Peter
Number
Gordon.
3 is, and this is not to dilute Joe's presentation on security, but you know, I'm on this chaotic quest to do safe and healthy buildings, right? And if we tie together sustainability and healthy buildings, I've been looking at air quality, and I think we should take a really close look at that because that's directly related to student performance. And the folks that I interface with in operations get emails from me weekly on that topic. And then to Phil, I thought the lighting initiative was a sustainability performance goal, that we would do something for LED replacement, but that was omitted. I don't know if that's under the SIP or not. But that's my quick STEM hits. And then I have an SDL question, which is rare for me from a STEM guy. And this may be for Tracy or Dan Doak. I like the idea of Connect. I think that's about as personalized education as you can ask for amongst the teachers and other trusted adults. I also add the word confide. And I was wondering 2 things. Is there sort of boundaries or guardrails in that confidential discussion? And 2, how do you provide a performance metric on that? And because it's a dip discussion tonight, so maybe you can just answer both of those and we'll move on to our next agenda item. Thank you.
Tracy, do you want to go first, or do you want me to talk about the fact that our Connect isn't about confidential discussions at all? It's connections, sharing what they like to do in their pastimes, what they're thinking about doing in school. It has nothing to do with like a confidential piece. So I'll let Tracy, if you want to take any of the rest of the conversation.
Yes. So to respond to the second part of the question, we absolutely have students who reach out to trusted adults. It's often a mental health provider, although not always, to discuss items that they believe are confidential. And I think our staff do a great job being really transparent with students about what can be kept confidential and what types of things can't be kept confidential. Anytime we have any questions or concerns about things like student safety, of course, we want to be responsive to the fact that the student has disclosed something personal and potentially very upsetting. And at the same time, we as the adults have an obligation to be getting them the support and the resources they need when they disclose information like that. So the adults in our building are trained to navigate that line between what can be a conversation between an adult and a student around maybe something that's just an area of challenge versus something that warrants follow-up and obviously communication with families.
And if I just might add the last piece, I think, Peter, was the accountability. How do we report out? It's one of the questions we ask in our school climate survey. Do you feel like you have a trusted adult in the building that you could reach out to?
All right, thank you. That's pretty comprehensive.
I have one more question. I thought maybe that later on I'd ask it, but I guess if we're trying to wrap up this section, my question's about enrollment. So over the past couple of years, it actually is specifically about, in the slides, the section 7 of the future planning piece. And the last item in there talks about analyze enrollment projections with a wrap-up date of January 2024, which I presume is to coincide with budget. Okay. Being that SLAM has been wrong for all the years that I've been on the Board of Ed and the years prior, One thing that I feel like we haven't looked at are the guidelines that you brought up earlier, Lisa, about how many students in the classroom. So I don't see anything in the district improvement plan that would look at what is the academic outcome, or the what happens if you were to add a 23rd student. I believe we have 22 students maximum, right? And
24.
24 maximum,
Mhm.
but that's at the
Not for, it's 18 to 20, correct, Laura? Up until, for K1. And then it's up to 24 beyond that.
Correct.
right. And when I looked at the an analysis that I had from the past, we tend to be around 21 students in a classroom, and in some cases, because of poor projections, we wind up with 18. So my question is, as we move towards the January budgeting season, and you guys look at other schools, and you mentioned in here the exemplary schools, where has there been any work done to look at what the effect is if you had one more student in certain classrooms rather than opening another section and winding up with 18 kids? I mean, I understand 18 kids is preferred over 23. But as we look at enrollment declining, we're sort of on this unsustainable trajectory from a budgeting perspective. So before we wind up in a situation where it's hard to turn back time, is there going to be any review of what happens academically to a classroom of 24 students versus 23?
So a couple of things. I think that there have been times where SLAM has got it wrong at a particular grade level. I think that I would be hesitant to say that they've gotten everything wrong. For example, in this recent one, there was a kindergarten and a first grade flip that we saw this year. The other point I would say is that we look carefully at their projections, and Phil and I have already talked about this. We also look at the current enrollment that we have. And then again, then you have to look at what the tipping point is within that section. I'll give you an example. There was a lot of talk last year there was a concern about, I believe it was, and Patty isn't here, so if someone can help me out, I think it was third and fourth grade sections perhaps, and we weren't sure, and there was a concern that we would put in a section and the numbers would be too low, and we would have sections of 18 instead of sections of 22, 23, and did we really need that section? And when we moved forward with hiring and looked very closely at it, we had this situation this past spring where it was kind of an anomaly where 15 students moved out of the intermediate school. Where did they go? And again, I have called people individually to get a sense of, what's going on. Half of those kids, their families moved to Europe. That was kind of a surprise to everyone. Some moved out of state, some went to private school, and then some moved to Europe. We didn't fill those sections this past year because I'm not going to fill a section to keep those numbers that low. I had promised the Board of Finance that we're not going to do that. We're going to stay within the range. And then we were looking right up until the beginning of school, David. Do we think we need this extra section? Tina and Paul are nodding their heads. We remember in August having a frank conversation with it, and we chose not to fill it. So why I think that the numbers that SLAM gives us are important. And I remember the first year, I think I became superintendent, we did both SLAM and NEASC, right, Phil? Because we were nervous after the pandemic. I think that I took the projections for the medium projections and I projected out within the board guidelines for the projections. We're also taking the current enrollment and looking at what the enrollment would be, just the current enrollment, without necessarily increasing it by the projections, because we want to be really sure, or as sure as we can be, and then only hire or have as many sections as we need. Now, with regard to the research and everything else, and we looked at this, I think last budget time, different schools have different tipping points, if you will, different districts. Some say 18 to 20, some might say up until 25, 26. I think that's, if you're going to look at specific research on this, I think that, one or two at the higher level from a 24 to a 25 or 23, 24, 25. Is it going to make that much big of a difference? No. I at that level, I'm not talking about, kindergarten and first grade. That being said, these are the guidelines that we always try to use. And we try to make sure that, like we did this past fall, we didn't go and it would have been really easy to say, we're going to add the extra section. We're going to keep it at 18. Well, then what if it drops to 17? That's not appropriate for the fourth grade, the fifth grade. We kept the enrollment actually above, they're above 22, correct? Aren't they like 23, 22? Phil, you have the numbers there, correct? So I think that in looking at it, we have to be very realistic in looking at projections, but also looking at current enrollment. We've already started, for example, I had Mr. DeVito run the birth dates of all the current preschoolers, because we need to see who isn't going to qualify to be in the fives, to be in kindergarten. How many are there? We need to go back and look. The SLAM person wanted 3 years worth of data. We looked at the current data. We have to get him this year's data when the October formal enrollment comes out. But we do look at it very, very closely. And also the why behind, why are people leaving? Where are they going? I know Melissa Walker was a big one on that. Lisa, call them up. And I called them and I would send them an email. Will you talk to us? So it's going to take some careful study. I put January in there because that's budgetary purposes, but in looking at the future planning goal and the course of what we need to do as a town, it's going to go beyond January. We're going to have to keep looking at this very, very carefully. And if you as a board want to change those guidelines, then that's something that would have to be pursued, I think, at the board level. I think that the guidelines are sound. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something, Dr. Henkel, but I think 18 to 20 and then the other classes up to 24 are sound. Knowing that, quite frankly, when they're at the high school, there are classes that go over the 24. Ms. Canetta's shaking her head. Part of that is because if we want to offer a class of, let's say, 14, 15 at a top level, AP Spanish, I always go to Spanish, for example, that might result in perhaps another section in another department where the enrollment is a little bit higher. You may have 26 students in, for example, sustainability, because everybody wants to take Mike Aikenhead's course. So at those levels, you can kind of waive it a little bit. Where the model is expensive, I feel like I'm going on, but it's worth making the point, is when you look at the return on investment is the middle school. But again, that teaming model is critical to the work that needs to be done there. We tried it when we had teachers teaching off team and it wasn't good. Kids couldn't get access to help. Teachers were not able to work with curricular partners because basically what you had was a junior high with 8th grade math teachers teaching 6th grade math, 7th grade English teachers teaching 8th grade English. It was not good. And I would put out there that also is an unintended consequence when we saw a dip in students' academic performance. Specifically, I know math contributed to that with all those teachers teaching different levels. Dr. Henkel?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I mean, you dissected that very well. I think developmentally, when you're thinking of kindergarten, first grade students, I would even argue second grade might be the class sizes that we currently have are very difficult because the needs are different. And the learning design and the curriculum is just more intense because you're building those foundational skills in 5 different content areas. When they get to grades 3 on up, their independence is different, their maturity is different, and so you can manage and balance some of the needs of the students as they get older. And I was just looking at the sections for grades, 3 and 4, and it's at 23. So we're right there.
Yeah, and just to clarify my question, it wasn't to suggest that we have 24 or 25 kids. Actually, I got out of my question the very thing I wanted, which was that you're thinking about it. That was the basis of my question.
Okay.
So I'm good with it. I just wanted to make sure it was something that The answer is yes. You think about it and you think about it
yeah.
and you think about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I would say
I do
that
think-
probably
look,
the one thing I'm
one of-
obsessed with thinking about sections.
One of the shortcomings, and it's not a criticism of the Board of Education at all, but is we really don't know who lives here. Right, so there's been massive housing turnover, as a result of COVID. And we don't know who's moved here. And I've said for more years than I'd like to count on deaf ears, we really should do some form of survey when someone sells a home, or most importantly, when someone buys a home. Who are you? Are you 2? Are you 4? Are you 6? Are you none? I mean, who are you? And you can do it in a manner that, is certainly by their choice. But we've talked about this, Lisa. We really need to sit down with the town and say, intuitively, I've said this 1,000 times, with the housing turnover because of COVID, you would have thought people who left probably didn't have children in the school system. And with so many houses being purchased, people were moving from wherever they're moving to, and they were coming here with children of different ages. And that turned out not to be the case. We didn't see a massive growth of students in the school system. Other communities saw growth, but it would really be nice, and we should talk to whoever runs the next administration on the town side, who lives here, and so we can plan for that. So we're not just, hoping we get it right. We know someone's moved in with 2 children or 1 child, no children, or whatever.
Yeah. And, anecdotally talk about like qualitative data. People kept saying to us, there's so many little kids in our neighborhood. We're seeing so many little children. And I think that's why the kindergarten numbers and the preschool came in at what it did. I mean, the kindergarten was higher than expected and the first grade was lower. And then, with preschool, this year we have 4 sections. Last year we had 5. So anecdotally, there are a lot of little children in town. But how do we quantify that?
And we're about to make decisions on school configuration that's going to have, a lasting effect on the town, both in physical plant and financially. So it's something we really have to pay attention to. If there aren't any more questions, shall we move on to?
I have 3 more quick questions. I'm sorry. I was thinking accountability wise, I just want to make sure that we've talked about it all. Really quick. The first one is about the chronic absenteeism on the district culture. I know that we are looking at K-5. Is there a reason why we're not doing 6-12?
I can tell you what the statistics are for 6-12, and they are in the 30 plus percentile, 34, 35, 6-12. Quite frankly, we really were focusing on elementary. We talked about, where we'll still monitor it because it's important, but where we were looking at was specifically, as Dr. Henkel would call, high leverage strategies, and that 60% at Europa, that's big. But the middle school is 36% and the high school is 37%. It's harder there, not to keep going on, but that also takes into account, remember, students need to go visit colleges, for example. There are different types of absences. And what we're seeing more is, parents are not pulling them out necessarily for vacations. When they're younger, that's more what's happening than when they're older.
Thank you.
Lisa, can I just add, it also, Brittany, doesn't mean that we're not aware and watching, right? The school improvement plan are the areas that the schools have really indicated we want to focus on, but it doesn't mean that that work isn't still continuing. So we have student assistance teams, we have core team meetings. We are, looking at those attendance reports every cycle, every month to look at the students. We need to be in communication with the families or, have them connect with a counselor. So all of those kind of programs, responses, interventions are ongoing.
Thank you.
Megan, can you just real quick question? So at all the school levels, NWEA, for example, or the was it SBAC, or whatever we just got a couple of months ago, it was an individual child scoring, right? Where they are and where they are relative to their peers. So when you talk about chronic absenteeism, as Dr. Henkel did, and then you tie it to the academic performance of that child, which then potentially negatively impacts the district. Because we have the I got it right, Dr. Henkel? Okay. Because we have the NWEA and the other score, don't we have the ability to individually know on a student by student basis who needs help and who a day out with their family, which could be for social emotional wellness purposes, it could be for whatever reason. Why globally tackle this problem and say chronic absenteeism is a problem that we all have to address versus looking at more individually who we know which students it's affecting the most? So are we looking at that level of data where you're pulling out a child who has a combination of poor scores and chronic absenteeism?
Yeah,
Right.
it's part. Go ahead, Megan.
Sorry. At each school level, I don't want to speak for all the schools, but I'm pretty sure we all work towards this in a very similar way, that we look at the data. So we might have NWA scores going back to middle school. We have certainly at the high school, we can look at NWA and SBAC scores from 8th grade and look at 9th grade, and then PSAT scores, other scores as students progress. And then we also have those kind of data spreadsheets where we can also note how many days absent a student has been. So we are really looking at the whole child. So we've had a lot of conversations about achievement goals and growth goals. All the work that we do in schools is really looking at all of the puzzle pieces of a student. So we might say, okay, here are a student's achievement scores or growth scores, and then we're going to look at what are some of the barriers, right, that might be impacting those scores. And certainly attendance can be one of those things. And when we identify that as a thing, then we want to be in contact with the family. We might have a student checking in weekly with their counselor and look at other interventions that we can apply. All of that work, regardless if it's noted specifically in a school improvement plan or a district improvement plan, that is the business of schools, right? That's what we do all the time.
Well said.
And keep in mind, David, too, that as a district, we're scored and rated on our absenteeism. It's one of the factors that goes into the next, I think it's the next gen school reports, right, Dr. Henkel? Yeah. So, everybody's always very concerned about, where Weston falls, compared to our peer districts. And with the student population the size of ours, you have a few kids that are out and skew the absentee ranking, and that factors in. I mean, we can see a dip in our rankings due to absenteeism. So, obviously it's important for the students to be present so that we don't have a loss of learning, but it's also important for our district ranking.
Okay, next question. It's the one about the goal that relates to the community members feeling welcome and valued. So I look at that goal and it speaks to a sense of belonging, to feel valued. When I look at the performance measurement we're using, it's about the increased survey rate for the climate survey data. And that looks like an engagement measurement then. So we have belonging is what our goal is. We're measuring it with engagement. I'm just wondering if they'll align, because you might have people who are particularly driven to do the survey because they're not feeling very happy in the school community. And you might get complacency with the people who feel very comfortable to not do the survey. So I just want to make sure we can maybe.
I'll just start real quick, just give you some background, and then I'll let Tracy, if she wants to add in as well. There's two things that we really wanted to focus on. Survey data collection is always difficult because it relies on the number of responses. And the more responses you get, the more accurate your indicators are. So one is we want more people to respond. We are valuing these surveys. We take time to design these surveys, and we really want the community to help us out so we can get a clear indicator of where we stand relative to connections, belonging, and some of the questions that we really dive deep, because there's a lot of questions in these surveys. There's a lot in the parent ones, and there's a lot for the staff and a lot for the student. So one of them is about responses so that we can get more accurate results. And then the second is we dove into individual questions that related to ways in which we're building connections. So you'll see we have it listed actually internally. We wrote it in here first, and we thought maybe it would confuse people, but we actually look at the specific questions that relate to the individual goals that we've reported in here. So there are specific questions related to reporting having a connection, specific questions related to absenteeism, for example, the specific questions at the parent level focusing on ways in which that we are looking at community events and how they're connected to the school, and different opportunities they get to engage in communication or engage with their students' learning experience. So there are specific questions in the surveys that relate to that goal, one of which needs to be, we want to have more people actually respond to the survey first. Tracy, did you want to add anything there? Did I miss anything?
No, I think that covers.
So just a suggestion, we might want to change the goal to have both those components in the goal part, but then have the two things we're measuring in the performance. Because if we, let's say, don't make the number of people required for the survey, but the surveys we get are widely positive, we might be hitting the goal of feeling welcome and valued, but by this performance measure, we fall short of hitting our goal total, because the only thing we're measuring here is the participation. Just a suggestion. And then my last comment is honestly a suggestion as well. Looking at the last two sections, section 6 for sustainability and section 7 for future planning, neither of them have a measurable performance goal. So I was wondering if it would be worth considering putting in some kind of way so that we look back and reflect on whether or not we've met goal, just like it follow along the same structure as our other categories. So we have concrete numbers to look at.
We actually talked about that with sustainability of, you think, well, like, what could we measure? The amount of composting, the amount of recycling. You think about, evidence indicators are, I guess, that it's going on, the practices, the evidence of the student work, the commercials. Do we ask, do we send out a survey at the high school to see if this is impacting them? We can certainly look at, all of those contribute, I would say, to evidence indicators of success with sustainability. It's a little bit tricky because we talked about that. How do you measure? How many days that we're collecting it, the amount of cycles. Phil and I were talking about that. How do we know that it's working? And I think that it's in the practice itself of the sustainability on a daily basis. And we can certainly see if we can come up with a way to measure that. I'll be frank with you. Section 7, I'm real hesitant to put anything else in, because I think that one of the things we need to understand is that it's not just what are we going to do with the schools, but what are we going to do as a town? And it's so linked to the town and the municipal government needs that I don't want to say something until we have those conversations. People talk about, oh, what are we going to do with the annex? What are we going to do with central office? They're all the same thing. What about the senior center? Are you in support of the senior center? Of course, I'm in support of the senior center. It gets very tricky to figure out a way of how do we measure this. I think it's fair to do this in collaboration with the town leaders. and also the Board of Finance. I do not want to go down a road where I am not being fiscally responsible because, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the town. So I think that that's how we need to report out, and we have to be more engaged in partnership with the town on this overall plan. There are things that we need to make sure that everyone is thinking of at both the town and the school level, just even the buses, for example. We know with the sustainability efforts that the buses have to go electric. So I am not in the position of recommending something for the town where are those buses going to go? Where are we going to put them? These things have to be answered and has to be part of the town conversation. Put them at the transfer station. I have no idea what the feasibility of that is. I just know that when they go electric, they're not going to fit where the current bus garage is. I know that, the annex is falling apart. What's going to happen there? I don't know. North House has certain restrictions, and I don't also know what the town can afford. So that's pretty much why I didn't go any further in that section. I just didn't, because I think that once we work together with the town, then we can.
Thanks. Shall we move on to?
Wait, Steve, I want to make one final point because the topic I brought up just sort of stalled partway through. I've already spent a lot of time on that, so I won't revisit all of that. But I guess I'll just pose 3 questions that you all can think about a little bit. And this is not to put you on the spot, but just to pose these. I remain thinking, and this is not me critiquing the doc. I think the doc's good. I just don't think it goes far enough. I remain confused about what, as a board member, I should be evaluating the success on beyond what's in the yellow, which to me looks like essentially standardized test metrics. So the question is, can we adjust what's in the yellow boxes and include more qualitative measurements? If so, what? And if so, and what, then the question will be, when can we do it? Meaning for this document or for future years. So you don't need to give me responses on that, but those are the questions that I still have even after our discussion tonight.
Okay, thanks, Chad. Anyone else? Okay, let's move on to section 7D, a discussion and a vote on the 24-25 school district calendar. Is there anything of note here, Lisa, we should be aware of?
Not really. It pretty much mirrors this year's calendar. I think, as I had indicated in the information when we sent it out, we did speak to the different unions and the PTO who are supportive of the calendar, and that's pretty much it. I don't really have any other comments.
Any questions or comments? If not, would someone like to make a motion to accept the calendar as presented?
I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the 2024-2025 Weston Public Schools District calendar.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Chad?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
And Steve, aye. Motion passes. 7E is a discussion and a vote on approval of a performing arts field trip to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yes, thank you. We're really excited to ask for your approval of our first long weekend overnight field trip of the school year. The curriculum instructional leader, Liz Morris, came to our curriculum committee's meeting to request approval for the concert choir, for band, orchestra, and choral to engage in a performance tour with academic and performance travel to Nashville, Tennessee. It's a long weekend starting February 29th and running through Sunday, March 3rd. You'll see in the itinerary that there's a variety of historical and career exploration connections for our students, which are really exciting, ranging from attending Vanderbilt University, as well as providing an opportunity for kids to actually record in a formal RCA studio throughout the weekend. It is a field trip that will be extended to 120 students of the total 240 students, and there will be about 20 chaperones that will be coordinating that opportunity for students. So if you have any questions, let me know.
For those of you who are not on, they ran through this on the curriculum committee. It sounds like a very cool trip, and they walked us through in detail what the agenda is. So this is not the first time that Bernie and I have seen it, and I think those were the two of us who were on the meeting. So anyway, took a look at it already. Looks like a cool agenda.
It does look cool. So BOE members are invited to go along.
At a fee.
I'm still trying to get enrolled in that high school class that we added. It wasn't the sustainability one. There was some high school class that we added that also was really cool. Can't remember what it was, but
Oh, there's so many cool classes there. We used to do that, senior citizens in the classroom or citizens in the classroom.
senior citizens.
Yeah, it was started as senior and then it was
Okay,
anyone.
very cool. Very cool.
Can I just ask Tina, one question? How many students may go on this trip, do you think?
Because of the number of chaperones, we have opened it to 120 students. And I think it's offered to all of the students in those three performance groups, but we are capping it at 120 because of the chaperones and the ability to kind of travel through the itinerary for that short period of time from Thursday to Sunday.
Will they all travel on the same flight?
They're all going to go together, I believe. Yes, they're all going to go together for sure.
On a related note, will it be opened up and advertised to kids who might be interested in it but are not in the performing arts, or is only?
No, it's for current students that are in band, chorus, or orchestra.
Okay.
Correct.
Can I just, the important thing about this is a performance trip. So they will be performing with a Vanderbilt professor. They will be performing at a Nashville high school. So it's really important, even for an ensemble to go, they have to have a certain amount of students in that ensemble in the various, I'm not going to get it right because I'm not musically inclined, but they need to have so many tenors, right? To make one ensemble actually go and be able to perform effectively.
Yeah, they'll engage in master classes at Vanderbilt University. They're going to explore the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Music City Walk of Fame, the Grand Ole Opry House, and the historic Ryman Auditorium. And the groups will record in Studio B of the Ryman and see a show at the Grand Ole Opry. And they'll also do some sightseeing led by the tour company. Really cool. Maybe we'll have some people on The Voice next.
Wow.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? Can I have a motion to approve the performing arts field trip to Nashville?
I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the performing arts field trip to Nashville, Tennessee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. David?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Chad?
Aye, yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Bernie?
Yes.
Peter?
Yes.
And Steve, yes. Motion approves. The next, we're just going to skip over this one because we're not going to let her leave. It's a recognition of Melissa Walker for her years of service. Don't know where to begin. Lisa, I'll let you begin.
Thank you. So Melissa, I believe you came in January 2019. Is that correct? Because it seems like it's been longer. I don't know why.
There was a pandemic.
Yeah, but when I think that you came in 2019, so you've been here about 5 years, and it really has been like 10, pretty much what you've gone through. Anyone that has been involved, both in the administrative team and on the board during the pandemic, it was one of the most trying times I know of my professional career. And for you too, you came on board, and 3 months later, we were in remote learning, and to be in that model for over a year and a half, and to serve during that time is it was a great deal. And there's a great deal of sacrifice, I think, that goes on with all of you on the board, sacrifice from your families, a lot of time and energy, meetings and everything else. And Melissa, I can say that I so appreciated your commitment and the work that you brought to the board. I know that you made me a better superintendent. You always asked questions that pushed my thinking. I think, I was just reflecting about when you said, why are these students leaving in particular grades? Lisa, call them, ask them, hear their stories. That was one of the best pieces of advice that you gave me, because everyone did have a story to tell. And it really comes back to the personalization that we try to bring. And that's what the strength of Weston is. And you've always exemplified that in your work with the board. You've always been, I found, a good sounding board, a voice of reason, and someone that asks the difficult questions to push, I know, my thinking. And I'm going to miss you. Thank you. And I know that Tracy Edwards would like to say something as well.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for giving me an opportunity, and the board for giving me an opportunity to recognize, really, Melissa, your tireless efforts on behalf of the students in Weston, the entire school community, truly. It's so bittersweet that this is your last official meeting with us. I feel extremely fortunate to have had the opportunity to work under your leadership over the last few years. You consistently go above and beyond in your role. We've had a chance to work closely on a number of different committees, and I can echo some of Lisa's sentiments. You're always so prepared for conversations. You ask the questions that move the discussion forward, and it's always so clear with every question that you ask that you're thinking about what's in the best interest of all of our students. You've been a tremendous support and partner for us as a district, and I think you've really encouraged us and motivated us to take the district to the next level. It's been an absolute honor and privilege working with you. Thank you for everything. You will absolutely be missed.
And I guess if I could weigh in, Melissa, you made my transition from the Board of Finance to the Board of Education seamless. I had no idea what I was taking on, and you just very politely would guide me in the right direction when I was going in the wrong direction. As simple as running a Board of Education meeting versus how we ran a Board of Finance meeting. I just can't say how much I really appreciate getting to know you and serving on this board. You will be truly missed.
Gosh, thanks everyone. That was also so sweet and so kind. I've had just such an amazing experience on the board. I joined 5 years ago just to give back because of such the amazing experiences my kids and families had with the Weston Public Schools. And it's been a busy 5 years, but truly reflecting back, I feel yet again that I've received, even more than I've given. And that's really just a testament to the amazing professionals that work at every level of the Weston Public Schools. Serving with all of you has really been one of the most rewarding experiences of my professional and personal life. My colleagues on the Board of Ed, both present and past. You guys, we've rolled up our sleeves. We've worked hard. You're so giving of your time and such valuable assets to the town. And I've really enjoyed working with you, and I've grown working with all of you. To the Weston public schools administration. I mean, best in class, guys. I mean, your creativity, your drive for excellence, your commitment, your heart, I mean, at every opportunity I've had to work with all of you, I've just been so impressed and so inspired. And I'm just so grateful to have my children in this district and to live in this town. And I've loved this experience, and I'm going to be rooting for all of you. And you'll see me around. I still have 2 kids in the schools. Thanks for all your kind words.
Thanks, Melissa.
If I can add, we do have a gift for you, but it doesn't seem like a great venue remotely to present it. So it will be forthcoming in person.
Thank you.
The next 2 items on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, if I may. I promised I would let the principals, comes very early tomorrow morning. So if the principals and Director Rios would like to leave this evening, and if Dr. Rasmussen will stay on through the consent agenda, and then he can leave, and the rest of us are here for the duration. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.
So the next 2 items on the agenda relate to the superintendent's compensation. The board had a number of meetings to discuss this, starting with a performance review. And we did that over 3 meetings, at least 2. I think 3 of the 5 meetings that we had. And I just want to outline for the public just a little bit of clarification here. Most superintendents, when they're engaged, work on a contractual basis, and the contract is a salary. When Lisa was offered the opportunity to become the superintendent, the board offered her a salary and a subjective performance bonus that would be voted on by the Board of Education of 6% of her salary. The way pensions work in the state of Connecticut, your pension is your 3 highest years of income, the average of those, and then it's a percentage of that number based on the number of years of longevity teaching in the state of Connecticut. We learned during this process that the performance bonus of 6% could not be included in the calculation of Lisa's retirement pay. When and if she ever retires. We don't want her to retire, but ultimately she will retire at some point. And so we had discussions with our council, and part of this compensation package is to make up for that. So the first item on the agenda is to approve the superintendent's 6% performance bonus or incentive compensation for the fiscal year 22-23, as outlined in her contract, as outlined in her contract. If there isn't any conversation, would someone like to approve that? Make a motion to approve.
Yeah, I'm happy to make a motion. I move that the Weston Board of Education vote to award the superintendent an incentive compensation of 6% of the 2022 to 2023 base salary as outlined in the July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2024 employment agreement.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Thank you. Chad,
Sorry, unmuting. Yep, aye. Yes.
David,
Yes.
Peter,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Bernie,
Yes.
and I'm a yes as well. Thank you. The second is, and I'll just give a little explanation on this as well. We are moving to offer the superintendent a 2-year contract. Only the first year of the contract, from a compensation point of view, is guaranteed. The second year is a negotiation with the board. And this is very consistent with how superintendents are paid in the state of Connecticut. And frankly, most superintendents work on a 3-year contract, but Lisa was willing to work on a 2-year contract. And so you can see the terms of it here. And if someone would like to make a motion to approve Lisa's contract for July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2025, and the base salary associated with that.
Yes, I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the term of employment of Miss Lisa Barbiero, Superintendent of Schools, from July 1, 2023 to June 30th, 2025, and to establish base salary of $286,624, along with an additional amount of $13,312, and authorize the chairperson to negotiate and execute a revised contract with the superintendent of schools incorporating these changes.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Bernie,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Great, and I approve as well. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lisa.
If I can just say thank you. I appreciate the trust that you have in me. This position for me is both an honor and a privilege to serve as superintendent of schools. I never would have thought when I came in 1985 as a young teacher that I would have the opportunity to lead the district. I take it very seriously, and I see it as service leadership, and thank you for your trust in me, and I will continue to work tirelessly for the children of Weston. Thank you.
So moving on to district updates. The consent agenda.
Dr. Rasmussen,
I'm on. Here we go.
you're on.
We have a shorter list than we did in September. We have 2 staff members that we brought on recently, really in supporting students on occupational therapy and also a physical therapist. My first one I'll just briefly reference is Nicole Stefan. She has a master's of occupational therapy from Quinnipiac, and she also has years of experience working as an independent contractor in these same positions. Working for OT Kids LLC out of Fairfield, and from that work, she actually did some work with the Mead School in Stamford, the Pinnacle School of Stamford, and also worked with Hamden Public Schools in East Haven. So we really welcome her and supporting her while she's here for a teacher who's going to be out on leave. Our second staff member that we brought on is a 0.8 FTE. Again, in the realm of a physical therapist. Again, has a deep background education. She has her doctorate in physical education from SUNY Hunter College, and also experience as a lead physical therapist at Blythe Children's Hospital in New York, and also within the physical therapy for kids, also within White Plains. So we welcome her, and we look forward to working with her as she supports our students within our district.
Questions? Motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that the Weston Board of Education accept the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Chad,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Melissa,
Aye.
Bernie,
Aye.
and I am good as well. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Lisa, Superintendent's report.
I think you've heard a lot about through the district improvement plan and the principals and the Board of Ed student reps about what's going on in the district. And I encourage you to read the next update that's coming out next week. One thing I did want to mention is we had received a grant with Rotary International, a partnership, if you will, for a teacher exchange with a sister school in Balanja, Guatemala, and 4 teachers were going to be coming in November to actually shadow teachers and learn instructional pedagogy, specifically at the intermediate school in Hurlbut. Unfortunately, they were not able to get all of their visas and paperwork together in time to come at the beginning of November. So it will be postponed to the beginning of January. And we look forward to welcoming these teachers to our elementary schools and learning specifically the numeracy and literacy strategies that they wish to develop. Some more to follow. And I think with that, I'd like to turn it over to Tracy Edwards for the pupil personnel update.
Hi again, everybody. I know we had a lengthy discussion about our district improvement plan tonight, so I just want to highlight a few things that relate directly to the culture and climate goal that are happening within the area of PPS. On October 4th, several members of the middle school and high school mental health teams provided a really thorough presentation about DBT for the parent community. I strongly encourage families who are not able to attend to watch the recording. There's a ton of useful information. It's already up on the website. As I explained during that meeting, DBT Steps A is a program that we're using at the middle school and high school. However, I will say the presentation included a number of strategies that are relevant for students across grade levels and are also relevant to adults. Another exciting update, there are now special education parent liaisons for the PTO. I had my first meeting with the parent liaisons last week, which was great. They provided some feedback about future parent meeting topics. I will be meeting with them monthly and look forward to that ongoing communication and collaboration to support students and families within the district. And then finally, this Wednesday, October 18th, we have our first special education parent meeting of the year. The meeting starts at 4:30. It's being held in the Weston Middle School Library. An important reminder, this particular meeting is not being recorded. We want it to be a more informal opportunity to discuss a variety of topics. The first and most important being an opportunity to meet our new assistant directors, Lisa Valenzizi in preschool through grade 3, Amy Spicer in grades 4 through 8, and Ben Newman, grades 9 through post-secondary. We'll also be doing a brief review of communication protocols and a brief discussion about how we support students transitioning between buildings in the district. And finally, we'll be discussing within that meeting gratitude and mindfulness practices, which relates to our overall district improvement plan and the culture and climate goals within that. So I hope to see many families on Wednesday.
Phil?
Okay, financial update. There are 4 transfers for board approval. Transfer 1 is to true up salaries or salary increases that were pending union negotiations. This is covered both for ASME and for our unaffiliated group. There's a $40,000 salary adjustment for Director of Human Resources Director. An $80,193 transfer for a social worker from a guidance counselor to a social worker at the WIS, which will mirror the current model that we currently have at Hurlbut. and 59,723.98 that represents a change from talented and gifted to academic support, a 0.5 adjustment. In terms of the financials, we're trending, well, it's early in the year to tell, but I think we're trending to be on budget. We have a favorable 120,737,000 net turnover savings. Just to point out, in salaries, we have some savings let me back up a little bit. We're going to be providing using salaries to cover services, third-party providers to provide speech services and Bearville services. So the savings that you're seeing in salaries will be used to offset those contracted services. That's approximately $295,000 for contracted services, and the offset is $315,000 in salary savings. Also want to point out that we did add the district security supervisor. This was added post budget approval. This addition, based on our current savings and current trend, will not have a negative impact on our overall budget. Wanted to point out for the board that we have additional transportation costs to transport students to our regional Center for the Arts at CES. That is currently projected to be $43,000. We're working to find ways to mitigate this cost, and we'll provide an update as to if we're able to do that. We have some other savings in our insurance line, and all in all, we're pretty much trending to be favorable for fiscal 23-24. Internal Services Fund is trending based on our 2-year average. So in other words, if this trend continues, we will be slightly below our budget. And that is the update.
Now, just note, Phil went through these numbers with the Board of Finance at their meeting last Thursday. Are there any questions? Can I have a motion to approve the monthly financial update?
Move that the Weston Board of Education approve the fiscal year 24 monthly financial update through September.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Peter. All those in favor, Chad?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Bernie?
Aye.
And I as well. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a review and approval of the fiscal 25 budget calendar.
Lisa, do you want to take this one? No. The calendar pretty much mirrors, as we mentioned before, similar to what we had in place for last year's, for last budget cycle. So this is pretty much just for the board to review and to discuss if needed.
Questions? Pretty standard. A motion to approve the fiscal 25 budget calendar, fiscal year 25 budget calendar.
I move that the Weston Board of Education approve the fiscal year 25 budget calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Melissa,
Aye.
Bernie,
Aye.
Chad,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
and I, Steve. Thank you. Phil, the budget assumption.
The budget assumption, again, these are similar to slightly different, I'm sorry. The budget assumption is standard, is standard annually, pretty much outlines what will be used as a basis for a budget. The main items here are salary increases, negotiated salary increases for the various groups, and also the salary increases for the unaffiliated groups, which are tied both to the administrative contract and to ASME. The assumption also assumes a 3.5% increase for consumables and related services, slightly lower than what it could have been. If there's any change in our inflation level based on the CPI, we will make those adjustments. And that is it for the assumptions.
Questions? Can I have a motion to approve the fiscal 25-year budget assumptions?
Do we need a motion to approve it?
I don't know, it says approval, but.
All right, there's no motion language, but I'll make a motion that we approve the fiscal year 25 budget assumptions.
Is there a second?
I'll
I'll second it.
Great. Chad,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Peter,
Aye.
Bernie,
Aye.
last vote, Melissa,
Aye. Thanks, Steve.
and I approve as well. The next item is a discussion of the 2023 school security competitive grant program award results.
Just wanted to give the board an update that we have received two grants. The first grant, round 6 of the state school security grant program. We did submit based on the criteria outlined in the grant applications for all 4 schools. On the security grant, the state only approved the high school. We did put in for items that we've discussed in terms of security cameras and pretty much items that will harden the perimeter of the buildings. So the approval is for the grant application for the high school is $332,453.90, which the state will reimburse 22.14% or $73,605.29. This grant will end in fiscal 26. The second grant that we have approval is what's considered to be the multimedia interoperable system. And these are grants that will ties in any communication, direct communication to the police department. This is for all 4 schools. The grant amount is $157,898 with an approved reimbursement of the state at 22.14% of $34,958.69. I don't think a vote is required. It's just to give the board an update.
Thanks. Should we move on to committee reports? The Communications Committee?
Nothing really to report on. We had a light agenda last week.
There we go. CABE,
Nothing to report.
CES, David?
Nothing to report.
Curriculum?
2 updates from our curriculum meeting that weren't already addressed in our meeting today. One, that in the high school, they're looking at the programs of studies and there looks to be some improvements and changes in the areas of STEM and wellness. And we spoke a little bit as well about the kindergarten start date change. And Mr. Bokadis told us that, they're having conversations with families and they are in a good position to manage that transition so that all of the kids are placed correctly.
Terrific. Peter, the EOC?
Yeah, well, I think the DIP really outlines the statement of work for us. I think our bi-weekly meetings are really about meeting that schedule and milestones. So that's really the performance metric, right? Meeting the schedule and the milestones. So that's what we do every 2 weeks.
The Finance and Operations Committee, Phil covered the finance side of it. Just from an operations, just for everyone's edification, there's some equipment at the pool at the middle school that has failed and needs replacing. One is a heating system. I guess 2 are heating system, Phil. The pool's operable, but these 2 pieces of equipment are going to need to be replaced. And then the track, the bids came in for the track And in addition to redoing the track, it was recommended that we include a pole vault pit and a second long jump pit, which would permit the high school to hold state meets. And that'll probably increase the budget by, in round numbers, about $90,000, which would get it up to about $650,000. Is that the number I wrote down, Phil?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So those are the highlights. I don't believe there's any negotiations committee, and we talked about the policy committee earlier in the meeting. Have I missed anything? And WEF, I guess Sharon's not here. So the next scheduled meeting of the Board of Education is on the 4th of December to discuss enrollment projections. And then the next meeting is on the 18th, which will be remote. And I don't believe there's anything else on the agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
I second.
Great. We don't have to go around the horn. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. Good night, everyone. And thank you again, Melissa.
Yes.
My pleasure. Good
Thank
night,
you,
everyone.
Melissa.